Greetings, everyone. Pete Pardo here from Sea of Tranquility. Welcome to Monday Night Must See TV with the Hudson Valley Squares. We've got almost the full crew here tonight, but we've got a special guest also from the Hudson Valley, Mr. Chris Caffery from Savatage and the Trans-Siberian Orchestra, sitting in for Nick Franco tonight. Welcome, Chris. Good to have you.
There's nine. I have Wilbur, so there's nine of us.
That's right. So we got everybody.
Here, so we fit the full nine.
We get a full house, along with Lynn Versace, Steve Keeler, Sydney Taylor, Butch Jones, Chris Allo, Ryan Scow. So tonight's topic, we talk about this kind of mythical place for some of you called The Chance, right? This is this little concert venue, this little club in Poughkeepsie, New York that everybody on this Zoom has been to countless times in our lives. So we always talk about it. Well, tonight we're going to talk about nothing but it. So I've asked everybody to come up to go through their memory banks and to think of 3 shows that they've seen at the Chance throughout their lives that really, really stood out amongst the rest. And for Mr. Caffery, who has had the pleasure of playing on that stage numerous times, I asked him, I said, you can either come up with a couple shows that you played that are really memorable or shows he's seen with the rest of us, because we've all hung out with Mr.
Most
Caffery.
of the shows that I've been there, if I didn't drive, I don't remember them anyway. So it's probably best if I say the ones that I played. Actually, I wasn't as bad as some people. You know what's actually some of my favorite shows that I got to see there were the Ted Nugent ones, because he does really well in the venues that are not, he doesn't do great in large venues, but he gets into the Chance and he just really, he puts his rock and roll and semi-comedy and political routine together, but he's always had good shows there. But the one time I remember going with my friend Big Scott, I remember that he wound up going into the catering area, and Brian from Brian's Backyard Barbecue had done his venison and all these things, and he was walking around with a backstrap, which is the really good piece of deer meat, and he was giving everybody a slice of the backstrap, and Big Scott was hammered. He took the whole entire thing and started eating it. And I never saw it. Was like, on the Flintstones, and everybody runs to be in the ride before they get there at the carnival. This was the reverse opposite. Everybody backstage was trying to run away from Scott, but that was one of those things. But yeah, I thought the Nugent shows were always really fun there. I mean, there's been a lot. I've seen so many shows at the Chance. I mean, you could just go down to each one and think of great ones. I mean, some of the Queensryche shows that I'd seen there were really well done. They were always great to me, because they would come in, most of the times they would have completely different sets, because as the years went on, they changed that up a lot. So it was like seeing them completely different situations, but there was a lot of shows that I really enjoyed. Every once in a while, you see a lot of great local bands and ones you don't even know about that are playing there, and that's always fun. But my experiences there, I think my favorite show playing there was probably the very last one Savatage did on the Poets and Madmen tour. I think that was probably my favorite show playing there, because the band really had just a really cool set that year. There was a lot of material up and down through everything, and we were actually able to add in a little bit more of the old material, even though John's voice sometimes would get tired. That kid Damon we had singing on that tour was able to handle a lot of John's really high stuff, like Beyond the Doors of the Dark and things like that. So we had a really cool Savatage set in that list. I mean, the Doro shows I did there were really fun. She's always fun to play with live, and it's kind of humorous, because I was touring with Doro and Metal Church and played there. We showed up at some venues that I was playing with Doro after I toured with Metal Church. The people were going to see Metal Church going, I didn't know you were playing with Metal Church. So I'm like, I'm not, I'm with Doro. So it was just it's been a lot of fun, and I got to play. I forget what the name of the charity thing was, but I got to do an AC/DC song with Brian Johnson, which was probably one of those really cool highlights in my thing, because he's just such a great singer and such a funny guy.
Right?
Huh?
Cliff was playing bass too, wasn't he?
Yeah, that was one of my classic rock hairs.
Yeah, okay, that's right. Yeah, because I went down to see that in I think it was Atlantic City, and then I wound up showing up and playing up at that one, and that was a lot of fun. So then I played on stage with Ripper and the Dio Disciples thing, and a lot of other things there. But
don't use up all your picks on your first go round, Chris.
Huh?
Don't use up all your picks.
You started talking to me. You started talking to me.
I know, but don't use all your picks.
Wait. Didn't he say before too, you could go first?
Yes, but you're using all your picks on your first go round. We want to come back to you. You want to make sure you
I do that. No. I do everything at once. I get it done.
That's what he
Ask
does.
Steve. I go out of order.
He's done,
I
and
do
then he's
everything
going
at
off
once,
the
and
dog.
then when you guys say your favorite show, I'll go, that's mine too.
Okay.
It's,
All right.
it's no.
So,
You
so
have-
for everybody watching, it's Caffery's rules tonight. So just
Yeah,
Maybe I'll think of something I didn't think of. In the meantime, right now I'm just digging into the brain. There's a lot of work there.
He needs an example, Pete.
Yeah, a lot has to be uncovered to get into the memory bank here. So I'll be silenced for a while. Next, please.
all right. Lynn, you're up next. Go for it.
This was really hard for me because I've been going there since, I don't know, I was a teenager and I work there. So I've seen, I can't even countless shows that I've worked, and I'm at the upstairs bar and I get I'm fortunate that I work there because I've seen the shitty shows and I've seen the amazing shows. And then even when I'm working, I kind of leave and I go to the upstairs. There's like an upstairs in the Chance, but you know what I'm talking about, that door where you can go like up above the drum set. So I'm always getting aerial view pictures of like all the drummers, of course, go figure. So I'm fortunate that I've seen pretty much everybody there in the last 20 years. So I'm happy about that. But one of the shows, I think that when I graduated high school, and I wasn't working there yet, but I was going there all the time. My first show was Ozzy. And that was January 1st, 1989. And it was part of my graduation gift from my parents. Know what?
It was June 1st.
That's what I mean. 6/1/89. It was 6/1/89. I have it written down. Sorry.
I was gonna say
I don't know my numbers and my months, Butch, but thanks for pointing that out. But it was the No Rest for the Wicked tour. They actually warmed up. Don't be a dick. I don't have my I Love Butch sign. I should have made one, but I do love him. But anyway, they warmed up. It was a warm-up show for the second leg of the tour, for the No Rest of the Wicked tour. And Geezer was on bass and the late Randy Castillo was on drums. And that's when I met my first boyfriend, Zach Wilde, but he was a babyface Zach Wilde. And he was freaking amazing. And I think Geezer actually left the band right after that and was replaced by Mike Inez from Alice in Chains. And I remember Pepe Marcello from the Good Rats, his son actually opened up. And I always wondered like how they got the gig. I wondered if they were on the same label or whatever, but either way, you know what? They actually had a keyboard player that show. I'm not really sure the guy's name, to be honest with you. Maybe you guys know, I don't know, but that was one of my favorite shows, I think, at the club for sure. Seeing Ozzy so up close and personal, it was pretty cool.
Yeah, right. Not too many chances to do that, right?
No, not too many, but that was one that I will never forget.
Cool.
I was gonna say the reason why I remember the date, being a Sabbath fan. Sabbath played Mid-Hudson May 31st, and Ozzy played the Chance June 1st. So I always remember that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that was not a coincidence.
Who was that? Who was singing with Sabbath? I don't even remember them playing there. What tour was that?
It was a Headless Cross, right?
Headless Cross, yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, all right. I thought they didn't play the Chance on that tour. What did they play the Chance
Yeah.
with them though? Didn't they? Or no?
No.
Oh, they
No.
never did. So the Poughkeepsie show was only the. All right.
Civic Center, yeah.
Civic Center, yeah.
I bet you that wasn't too packed at the Civic Center, right?
They had a decent crowd. It wasn't, they probably could have squeezed everybody into the Chance, but
It was with Kingdom Come and someone
Yep.
else.
Kingdom
Remember
Come
Reaper?
and Silent Rage,
Violent Rage.
who were a poofy band, as Steve would say.
It was a weird mix.
Yeah.
Mr. Keeler, you're up next.
Wow. I gotta figure this out.
He's
I guess I'm
amazing.
gonna kind of go from stuff that I've worked with at the Chance, because we started doing a lot of promotions and our yearly anniversary concerts there. So all started about the 20th anniversary, and I guess I will go with that one. I've got probably a couple honorable mentions, of course, but the 20th anniversary show we did in Poughkeepsie. It's the first time we did. We used to always do them in Middletown at the clubs here, and we finally did that. And we would always latch on to something that Frank had booked. Frank Pallett, of course, the owner of the club. And we went with a big tour package. It was Suffocation, Cryptopsy, who did not make it across the border from Canada for some reason. So they did not play. It was Vader from Poland. a young band that just started out at the time, Decapitated from Poland, of course, and The Aborted. And I believe there might have been one more band on it. And I don't actually have a cement date, but it was the 20th anniversary and the store's
It
35
was
years.
November 5th, 9th, 2005, Steve.
Oh, you're got my notes for me. I did not do dates well on any of these. I've just got concerts. So that's my number three for the day. And I just thought it's a very memorable concert for me because we pulled off this promotion. We got a lot of people to come up and come out of the woodwork for it. It was a great like death metal and thrash metal, mostly death metal show, and we had a good crowd, and it was our first time working with, well, maybe not the first time ever, but the first time doing like an anniversary show there. And we did quite a few over the years. I know we did up to, I think, 31 at the Chance. So
Nice.
I was there. I don't remember that show, Steve.
I totally do. Vader stole that show. Vader absolutely rushed it that night.
I remember some stories from that show. Now, Scow, you were not at that show, or did I not know you yet?
You were there.
Young?
I was there. I was just fucked up. I don't remember anything. I was in the
too much. Yeah.
Whiskey. It's fucking evil.
Sydney, our center square tonight. You're up next.
Ooh. So for me, I mean, the Chance is special to all of us, but it's interesting because I haven't seen, definitely no surprise, as many shows as all of you have seen at the Chance. I've seen more shows at the TLA here in Philly than I've actually seen at the Chance. But I feel like the Chance is so special to me because it was the venue that I first started to, it's when I wanted to go into music, it was the venue that kind of changed everything for me when I started to go to shows there. It was my first experience getting to go into like kind of like a tiny little venue club atmosphere and kind of just the rock and roll vibe when I was just like a young teenager and kind of getting into this music. So although I haven't seen just a ton of shows there, the shows I did see were just super memorable to me because it was such a formative time in my life. So the first show, again, people always make a joke in the comments about how like I always mention my age, but I feel like it's important for context of the fact that a lot of these shows are like in the last like 10 years because I'm on the younger side. But the first show is the first show I ever saw at the Chance. I saw, the first, I guess, kind of real artist show. I had seen a lot of like tribute shows and things like that, kind of like the tribute bands that came through. But the first kind of artist that I saw that was a big deal for me was I saw Jeff Tate in 2016. And for me, that was huge because at the time I was really into Operation Mindcrime. I was like really heavy into Queensryche. I fell in love with that record. And I was just, that was like my first experience really seeing Jeff, or honestly anybody from Queensryche. That was like this is the first experience. So I liked, for me, hearing I Don't Believe in Love and Breaking the Silence and all those songs was like such a holy shit moment because I was like falling in love with that album, and I just to see it live, and I went with my parents because they took me, and it was just like a really fun experience and very memorable because it was just a really great night to, see all the songs I was really in love with. So that's my first one. And I also want to mention, because I did bring up Jeff Tate, I had the chance to speak with Jeff today for my podcast. So that's coming soon. It just so happened to coincide with this show. So I wanted to mention it. He's releasing a new record, so that's coming on Friday. But yeah, that has to be my number one or my number three for tonight. So
very cool.
Yay. Makes me
Mr.
happy.
Butch Jones, you're next.
Me?
He's never been there.
No, I've never been to this mythical place. So guys, first of all, I'm just going to say the little butcher shop group that I started a month ago is at over 1,000 people already. So thanks for coming and hanging out and talking. And seems like there's a lot of interaction, so it's a lot of fun. So I'm glad everyone's enjoying it so far. And also, I want to be the one to give everyone else out there, which is the majority of you that have no idea about the Chance. So let me kind of give you a little context. The Chance is a 100-year-old theater in the city of Poughkeepsie, New York, and it holds, I believe, technically, it holds 770 people. So it's a small club, and where Poughkeepsie is like a tertiary market, it's like a third tier market. So there's New York City and then Albany, which is above us, and we're right in the middle between New York City and Albany. So we're a third tier. So we're a smaller area, but we've had almost everybody on the way up or on the way down come through Poughkeepsie and come through the chance. So Lynn stole my thunder. I'm not surprised, but that she did.
Oh my God. Yes, I knew you were going to pick that.
No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying I should have known that someone would say it, but I don't, if you can see the ticket stub there at all. So it's the June 1st, 1989, the Blizzard of Oz. And so that's the way the local radio station was teasing that Ozzy was coming to the chance without saying Ozzy. It was the Blizzard of Oz. And they emphasized Blizzard of Oz. So, you know, it only took 2 seconds to figure out what the hell they were talking about. So back to the context of it being a 770 capacity club, there was about 1,300 people shoved into that club that night. It was unbelievable. I remember me and my buddy Joe, we got right in the middle, right by the bar. So our backs were up against the railing of the bar, directly in the center, and you couldn't move. So you got that spot and you stayed there the entire night. So to get a beer, you had to kind of shuffle around people to kind of turn around to get the drink and then turn back around and watch the show. But it was amazing. So yes, Lynn picked it, and I could pick something else, but I wanted to mention that because it was a very important show to the area. Sydney.
Funny thing about that show, and I'm not sure if I've said this before in here, I've said this to you, but my dad actually missed that show because he thought it was an Ozzy tribute band.
Yeah, you said that last time. That's funny.
Yeah, he thought, and then he found out that it was actually, because he, heard it on the radio and he was like, Blizzard of Oz, it's just it's just an Ozzy tribute band, whatever. And then it turned out to be actually Ozzy and he missed it. So.
But I'll quickly just give a different one instead, because just to kind of, like I said, just to give context of the chance and the magnitude of Ozzy actually playing there. So I'll pick another one real quick. That's not really part of my other ones, but this is 2011. So anyone that's kind of gotten to know me from the show and on Facebook and everything knows that I love Akira Takasaki from Loudness. I've been a huge fan of Loudness since 1983. I did not get to see Akira until 2011, which I can't even understand how I missed them. They were opening for bands and they were playing in New Jersey on Friday, and I got the show Saturday in Connecticut. And then I didn't know, but come Friday, Saturday, Loudness left the tour on Friday in New Jersey. So I kept missing them. So it took me until 2011 to finally see Akira at the Chance of Poughkeepsie on their 30th anniversary or 40, some major anniversary, 80, 89.
I can't believe it's been 10 years since that show.
Yeah, exactly.
Holy moly.
So I know me and Steve were there.
We're old as dirt.
It wasn't Akira in 1985, but it was Akira, and he killed, and it was great. But I was so disappointed that it took me so long to be able to finally see him. But I did see him at the Chance, so dream come true.
There you go. Yeah, most of us on this call were there. Geez, that's crazy. Mr. Allo, hope you're feeling better. You're up next, my friend.
Excuse me.
We missed you on the Monsters Den last week, man.
Yeah, sorry. A bit under the weather. Excuse me.
Are you sicky? I feel bad.
Yeah, it's okay. I'm getting better.
Sorry.
But the Chance, like Butch said, to just tack on. When I started going to the Chance in the 80s, I was already like a veteran of the New York metal club scene, going to Lemoore and the Ritz, and I used to love the Sundance in Long Island. And it came to me the other day when I was thinking about this topic. I was like, Jesus, it's amazing that all these other clubs, which were, I guess, the A markets or the B markets, like Butch said, they're all gone. And thank God somehow all these years later, the Chance is still there. So that's, a testament to everybody that works there and keeps the shows going. And it's really a great thing that the place is still there. So I just wanted to say that first.
Shout out to Frank.
Excuse me. Yeah, absolutely. Shout out to Frank for keeping the place going. I don't even know how long he's had it, but God bless him. And I remember as a kid, there were spurts where there was like a while where there would be like no good shows for like ever. Like I remember a couple of years, like in the fucking 90s, going, I haven't been to the Chance in like 3-4 years because they had nothing. So it's great that they're still there. God bless Frank and everybody connected, and hopefully everything will go back to normal soon, and we can keep going to shows and standing on the sticky floor and
make some money.
Yeah. Go to the shows there. Anyway, my favorite show, it's out of order, but fuck it, it's my first one on my list. It was I've been able to see Slayer, thank God, 58 times. Slayer show number 4 was one of the absolute craziest. September 7th, 1990. Slayer was going to Europe. They were doing a tour. The European Clash of the Titans was Slayer, Testament. Who else? Suicidal Tendencies. Was it Megadeth? It was four bands.
Was Megadeth? I think Megadeth for the Chance.
No, that was the European tour. But before then, Slayer decided to book a week of club dates where they were going to play on the East Coast and do warm-ups and play their new material mostly. And the very first night of this tour, which wound up being the very first show ever in support of Seasons in the Abyss, which was way before Seasons in the Abyss came out, was the Chance in Poughkeepsie. And like Butch said for Ozzy, the Chance was people on top of fucking people. And, back then, I remember the security not being as on top of it as they are today. And man, it was like Predator, man. It was like, if you fall behind, you're on your own. It was just a fucking war zone. I remember a dude jumping off the balcony it was fucking insane, but the intensity was unbelievable. I mean, I was thinking about this too. Arguably, 1990 was Slayer the greatest metal band on the planet. I mean, I don't know if tell me if there's somebody else, but it was awesome. I remember after the show talking to some buddies, and I was like, wow, those new songs sounded really good. But I remember the conversation for some reason. I was like, yeah, they all sounded good, but I don't know if I like all that start-stop stuff in the beginning of that one song, which of course was War Ensemble, but nobody had heard it yet, and it was the first time they ever played it. But the show was phenomenal. And the other thing I remember was the merch. They had 2 shirts. They had there was the very first appearance of the Slayer Iron Eagle shirt. And then they had this other shirt, which I thought was creepier, which was like some weird like zombie soldier on a crucifix. So of course I bought that one, but like the Iron Eagle shirt is worth like 10 times more because that was the first one. And it was a week in the Abyss. And it was like 7 shows on the East Coast. And I'm like, God damn it, man. I'm like, man of myself. I'm like, why didn't I go to more than just the Chance? But it was what it was. I guess, I don't know, 19 or 18 something. So anyway, that's my story. Slayer at the Chance was people still fucking talk about it. I mean, the Chance posted it the other day on their Facebook page. And all I clicked was, I was there, legendary. And people were like, oh, I mean, it's like I said, Slayer in 1990. I don't know if I got any better than that.
I was there too.
Amen.
That was one of the big ones.
Did we play there with Trouble in 1990? Savatage and Trouble play? I think we did.
Yeah.
Well, that's a good one.
We weren't the best metal of 1990 because that was Slayer, but I think Savatage and Trouble played the Chance in 1990. I think we did. I think that was one of the dates on that tour that had Trouble. Actually, you know what? I think it was, and I remember why I remember. I think that was probably the last show, and I'm interrupting again. I think that was the last show of that tour that Trouble did with Savatage. And I think the singer, he used to do a lot of hallucinogenic things, and he came out on our stage, and we gave him a pizza. I gave him a pizza while he was watching us on the side of our stage, and he walked out during our set. We're playing with Savatage with the pizza, and he was whacked out of his mind, tripping, and he's standing there, walks up to John Oliva in the middle of the show. John had no idea he was coming, and he's standing there, and he didn't even know. I don't even think he knew that we were playing at that time. That's how his brain was on planets. Trouble was a really fun band to tour with. They fought every day. They would stay in different hotels. they were really comical. They were like a Heavy Metal Monkeys, but they were a great band. But I think we did play that was 1990. We played a Trouble. That was the pizza night where the singer came on stage. We gave John Oliva a pizza during our show. But I interrupted again, just saying that. But
Okay, that's a good story.
sorry,
Mr. Ryan
sorry,
Scow, you're
sorry.
next.
All right,
I'm actually
so
pretty impressed though. You guys remember shows that you saw better than I remember individual years of my life, which is pretty. It's like, wow, I don't even remember. I don't remember like 93 to 97, and these guys are like, oh, I remember this show and the T-shirts, and I'm like, wow, I don't even know what I was doing in '94. But
It's a special crew here.
yeah.
Mr. Scow, what do you got?
all right, so Chris and Butch are talking about shows where they probably went triple capacity. So I'm gonna go to the other side of the fucking the other side here. In 2002, German thrash bands Creator and Destruction were on tour, and I don't really remember the details, but they were supposed to play the Chance.
Yeah.
Something happened. They canceled the tour. Doesn't matter. Maybe they had the wrong flavor ice cream. Who the fuck cares? They ended up making up the date later on in the tour, but I don't think word got out. So I got there pretty early because I two of my favorite thrash bands, and I don't remember who the fuck opened. I didn't care. So I remember when Destruction goes on, and they've been around a long time. It's like the early 80s. They're a pretty famous band.
Oh, yeah.
Nobody was there yet. So I'm standing down in the little pit area of the Chance, watching Destruction, who kicked ass, and I'm the only fucking one there watching this band. It's like legendary.
I was there.
Were you in the pit though? Because I remember.
No, I got the olds. I had the olds 20 years ago, man. I was too old for that shit.
I was like the only person standing in the little pit area at that. I'm just looking left and right. I'm like, I can't mosh. I don't know what to do. I guess I'll headbang, but there's nobody here. Then obviously the crowd started filtering in by the time Creator headline, by the time Creator went on. It wasn't sold out, but it filled in a little bit. But I remember Destruction's whole set. They just fucking kicked ass. They played a lot of their older stuff, some newer stuff. Their new album at the time was called The Antichrist, which was pretty good. So the set kicked ass. And I'm just like, all right, I guess they're just playing for me. That's what it felt like. Like front, nobody there. I'm like, they just played the whole stuff for me.
Bless you.
Thank
It's fucking awesome. So that was my first one. I've seen them a whole bunch of times, and I wouldn't even say that's my favorite Destruction set. But just because of that experience, it just like, all right, this is cool.
was a great show.
Because of that, yeah. I'm like, that's my most memorable Destruction tour, or sorry, Destruction set because of that. So I don't remember. It was 2002, but I tried to look up the date and I couldn't find the exact date. I only found the original, not the rescheduled date. So sometime in 2002 that happened.
I remember the original was on a Sunday for some reason. And I think when it got rescheduled, it was not a weekend show. I could be wrong. And I remember thinking, well, maybe that had something to do with the attendance being so poor. Because it was like there was like 10 people there.
Yeah, when Destruction played, like maybe you, me, the bartender.
The Tremors gig.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
But yeah, they were. I mean, the band's kicked ass. Creator
They were
kicked
great.
ass.
Yeah.
He's got a question or comment.
I just remember nothing to that extent, but there was a lot of shows that would happen there because it is a third market with some of the bands that were of more of the extreme stuff. Like, because in the Chance complex, there's another little club upstairs called the Loft. I guess you can almost include that in this episode because it is part of the same building.
True.
And I can remember seeing like with Tane there, when they were playing bigger places. I remember seeing Savatage there, and there was like maybe 30 of us watching them. And then the same summer, they played in front of 60,000 people in Europe. So it was just like you get that experience at the Chance. Sometimes seeing, especially a lot of the European more extreme acts and stuff coming in, you'll get some smaller shows. Like you'll be there and it's like 100 of us watching the band. It felt like it does feel like a private show sometimes. That's the only point I wanted to make.
I was gonna say, besides the Loft, there, I don't remember the name. There was that side room. Like speaking European bands, I remember seeing Sodom and Fintroll in the side room in 2000 something. I think that's it. Yeah.
They played the main stage. Sodom and Fintroll? That was in a Chance.
Yeah. Did they do another gig?
Was in the Chance proper, yeah.
Did they do another gig in the side room? Because I could have sworn I could be wrong.
Usually more like hardcore shows.
Merch. Yeah, but they also have merch downstairs in that back side room. Sometimes they put merch there.
Chris, one time I remember I don't remember what show it was, but I walked between bands into that side room, and it was the Loft. And I'm like, this guy looks kind of familiar. I didn't know who was playing. It was fucking Neil Turbin, Anthrax's first singer.
Oh, no
pulling to,
kidding.
like the bartender and a security guard upstairs. I'm like,
Wow.
I had no idea
I
what
mean,
was happening.
I mean, there's been shows that actually used all the venue. You've had like some of the festival type things that
On the
Frank
festival.
would book.
Yeah.
And Lynn's talking about another room. There's another room which they call the Platinum Lounge, which is still
Yeah.
there, I think. The
Well-
Club Crannel turned into what was the Nutty Irishman, the restaurant. But all that building at one time, I remember going like setting up at hardcore fests and stuff there where there was literally, they would use the Platinum Lounge for merch, and
Yeah.
you'd have people going upstairs to catch a band and coming back downstairs to the big, to the big room, to the Chance and whatever
Probably
else.
sounds confusing as shit if
Yeah.
you've never been there. You got a room up here, then there's a room over here, then there's another lounge over here, then there's the main room.
It's like that
It's
crazy
a
place,
historic
Webster
old
Hall. You
building,
go to
like Butch
Webster
said.
Hall,
I'm glad
there's
Butch
everywhere.
described the place well to everyone. You know,
Yeah.
Yeah, a whole bunch of rooms.
old opera house.
Yeah, Webster Hall was.
Yeah, Webster Hall too.
Yeah.
had a
Or
lot.
the Limelight was another one like that. All the weird little
Oh
rooms.
my God! But
Yeah,
those
like,
weird rooms
that was
didn't have
definitely-
bands playing. They had people doing some things. in
Right,
those
yeah.
rooms. Not that there's anything wrong with that.
Hey,
Religious
We're doing it
experience. No.
Right for
Oh,
everybody.
it was it was definitely a religious experience.
The Chance was one of those places like Lemoore in Brooklyn, where if you were blindfolded and brought there, you would know it by the smell too. It just had, it's like you get in there, it's like you could have a blindfold on and be in a car and be kidnapped and be getting in there. Like, we're gonna take you for some remote location. You'll have no idea where you are. I'm in the Chance. Lemoore in Brooklyn was like that too. There was just a smell that you knew was only that place. And it's all said in love, that beer and puke and years of people's muddy shoes, everything just combined into one good, yeah, a lot of that smell, that
story.
Remember that smell.
It's funny that you say that, Chris, because I was just there seeing Frank and Nikki probably about a month ago to get my W-2 or whatever, my tax forms. And I literally made a post after that, and I left there and I was like, the smell of home. Like it just like I actually missed the smell, It's funny that you say that.
And I said that I said something on Joe Rapp's one of his posts. I said it because he posted a photo of it. I said it looks like it's clean, and he goes, "It still smells," or something
Totally.
like that.
That smells, the smell of home. I was like, man, do I miss that?
It's grown into the walls. So you'd have to probably actually replace the walls to get rid of it.
Oh, if those walls could talk, we don't want to replace them.
No, absolutely not.
Gotta leave it the way it is.
And I got to be honest with you too. With touring in America, there's a few states you go to that have better audience as far as rock and metal goes than others. But Poughkeepsie, New York, and playing the Chance, that's always on the Northeast one of the best heavy metal crowds you will see. And it's just something about that area. I think it's combining the upstate head away from the city crowds. And it's just, we've always had really, really amazing crowds there. And I think a lot of the bands I've seen, like I remember seeing Wasp there and some other things, and that just the crowds in that venue, for some reason, there's just more of like, it's like a little, I mean, you call it a club, but to me, it's more like a European theater kind of venue. Some of the bigger places like Docks and things like that you'd see in Hamburg, where it just has that feeling at because it's a theater, but there's no seats, so it's general admission there, and you can watch it from the top. And the sound, when it's done by the right person, the sound there can be really, really good. It's like it all depends on the sound person with any gig. But I've seen some shows that have just been really special. It's got a really good vibe to it. And I was always upset when when people say, "Oh, we've heard the Chance might shut," because that's one of the venues that you always want to see make it no matter what. And I think we'll be out of this mess, by the end of the summer, and hopefully even before then they could get back to putting some shows in there. I don't know what the schedule is like, but if they could get back to full attendance, it'd be nice to see, because I want to see everywhere be able to stay open. But the Chance is one of those places that I'd be heartbroken if it ever closed. I know that.
Amen.
Oh, for sure.
Yep. All right, so my first selection here, I'm gonna kind of go back a couple of years from Chris Allo's picks. So Slayer, February 1st, 1987.
Wow.
It was a pretty insane show. And I remember that's because, Rain and Blood was only out a couple months. They had just started the tour, and probably even then, that early on, probably too big to play the Chance, but they did it anyway. And the place was packed to the gills. And I remember I was upstairs watching the show, and every time I looked down below, it was like freaking mayhem down below. I mean, people moshing and flying all over the place. It was probably the craziest show I had been to at the time. And I remember them being so loud, and they played almost everything off of that album and a selection of the older tracks. And I don't know, Chris, I think, did you mention someone like jumped off the balcony at that show or something like that? Because it happened at my show as well.
I was gonna say I wasn't at the Chance show because I saw Slayer the week before with Wasp and Raven in Capitol. But of course, looking back now, I'm like, fuck, man, I wish I could have gone to that show too. Because Slayer at the Chance is, I think, right, they only ever did those 2 gigs.
I think so, yeah. And I don't even remember who opened that show. I have no idea.
Right.
All I remember is them, and I just remember how insane it was. And then it's funny because then, like later in the tour, they played at the theater at Madison Square Garden, and like by that point in time, like the cops, the New York City cops, had already gotten wind of how crazy Slayer audiences were. So I remember, like, I was living in Long Island at the time. I remember getting off the train at Penn Station and walking up top on street level, and there were cops everywhere.
That show, not to interrupt, but if I'm not mistaken, Pete, that show was August 31st, 1988. That was Slayer at the Paramount, but that was the South to Heaven tour, not the Rain of Blood tour.
Oh, was it the South? Yeah. All right. So yeah, it was right at the beginning of that, right? Yeah.
Yeah, that was.
That was,
you're
that was
totally
the show
right.
with
There was
Danzig, right?
cops. Yes, cops everywhere. That show was crazy too.
Yeah, it was. But the show of the Chance was just absolutely amazing. And I just remember sitting up top watching it down below and just watching mayhem going on like all over the place in the Chance. Butch.
Wasn't that the show where Lombardo didn't play drums? Was another guy?
Yes, Tony Scaglione from Whiplash, if I remember right.
Great drummer.
Love that name.
I remember the last song was Rain and Blood, Angel of Death, and him doing a double bass thing and ending and throwing the sticks up and like collapsing back off the drum throne. Like he was dead.
Yeah.
Probably was after that.
Very memorable show. Yeah. All right, Mr. Caffery, we're back to you.
Back to me again.
Strap
Well, I
in.
mean, we could go back to I want to ask you guys, because especially what you were at who was at the Megadeth show?
I would, for sure.
What was the crowd like at that show? Because I was so busy
That's
at that
good.
time.
A
Because
lot of
I
It was good.
was
I think it
doing
was pretty. I
at
think it was
that time-
pretty packed.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, because at that time I was also, not only was I playing guitar and keyboards for Savatage, but I was teching for myself and Middleton. So it's like I had a lot of things to do on and off stage. So I don't remember. I think I might have snuck out and watched Megadeth a little bit in that show, but I really couldn't remember exactly what the crowd was like at that show. And
It was good. I always remember you telling me a story that that you were getting yelled at or not being treated very well at that point, and Mustaine sticking up for you.
Oh yeah, no, that it was. Megadeth actually kidnapped me at one point in that tour. They wanted me. Actually, Mustaine asked me to go on the road and be Jeff Young's guitar tech for the rest of the tour because they didn't like their tech. But I really wasn't very schooled with Floyd Roses at the time. I hadn't really used a lot of them, so I didn't want to go out there and be under the wrath of Mustaine. But I left in Megadeth's bus one night when I got into an argument with Savatage. I remember Wackles telling me, he goes, if you leave with Megadeth tonight, I can't guarantee you'll be in Savatage when we see you the next time. And I think I was only with Savatage another week before the tour ended anyway. But I know Mustaine was away doing some press, and I was staying in Ellison's room because Mustaine and Ellison stayed together at the time. They didn't have separate rooms. And Mustaine got back sooner than he thought. And he walks in the room. He sees me laying in his bed. And he just walks in and you see Dave Mustaine like peering down at me and at like 4 a.m. going, looks like I'm going to need my own fucking room. He walks out of the hotel room. I was like, oops. I still have one of the key cards from that.
Oh shit.
Because they went on that tour by the name of Mike Hawk and Mike Hunt, being Mike Hawk and Mike Hunt was their key cards for Dave and Ellison. So I still have my Dave Mustaine key card that had the hotel room key from that tour in my photo book. But
Classic.
that was a lot of fun. Yeah, well, that was at that time. You know what, the bands were not huge in the but we still needed to watch ourselves differently than you do now, because people were showing up and hawking around on those bands, especially when you were younger. You know, when you get nobody really does that kind of stuff that's like TSO. We're all like older now, but back at that time, you would have people showing up, and before they had really good security in hotels and computers and all these other things that protected you, you had to be careful with that because people were showing up and, you know, saying they were somebody else or saying your real name or trying to call those rooms. And so that at that point in time, it was really big. Everybody wanted a fake hotel name at that time because for a bunch of different reasons, but you were safer if you had that. So
Lynn,
People still do it.
I
Yeah,
played the
no.
fifth on the grounds. Anything I say may incriminate me.
yeah, I don't bother with it. Everybody can find you if you want to. I don't have that kind of energy anyway, but I mean, there's so many. I remember seeing, did anybody else go to that Wasp show? They still had Daryl Roberts, I think, in the band when Wasp played there. That was a really good show. My guitar tech
I love
Kyle.
Wasp.
Is that the one with Accept and Metal Church?
I
can't
love
remember.
Wasp.
no,
I think it
I think
was.
Holmes
It
back
was. It was not Accept. It was Metal Church, and Ronnie. I think Ronnie was singing in Metal Church at that time. It was Wasp and Metal Church. Was it? No, I don't think.
There
Accept.
was an exception, but I think that Chris Holmes was back then
Was it Holmes?
when it was Wasp and Accept.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
Wasp played a bunch of times.
That was
Okay,
early 90s.
but the one with Metal Church and Wasp, that was Daryl Roberts, I think, that was playing that.
That
one.
with the big handlebar.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that freaking, I love that.
Yeah, that was
Yeah,
2000.
Wasp was always fun. Like that was a really good show there. Like I said, that, and I still go back to those Nugent shows. Ted Nugent always had really good shows in that theater. You know, he
was
just
fun.
came in there and it was fun. You know, you went in there and it was like his attitude in that kind of scene. I've seen a lot of fun cover bands in that one Journey band that plays recently. That they're really good. I like watching them there. What's the Frontier? What's the name of that band that's just
Evolution?
the really good Journey band?
No, it's another band. I forget the name of it, but that's not them.
Isn't it Frontier? Is Frontier the name of the band?
It's with Hugo, I know that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
with you.
yeah, with
That's
that
a
guy.
really good band. And I like the Amish Outlaws a lot. They were a lot of fun.
They're really good.
I was
I
really
love them.
surprised by that. I wanted to go see what it was, and they
They're
were a lot
really
of fun.
good.
Yeah, I would definitely go see the Amish Outlaws again if they were coming back up that way.
They play at Daryl's house all the time too. They're really good.
Yeah, I talked to the guy Big Daddy, the big tall Amish guy. He's a big TSO fan, and he always contacts me on Facebook and stuff. So he wants me to come and play with the Amish Outlaws. So, but if the next time the Amish
Do it.
chance, I will play with the Amish. And you know, another
Yes.
thing, I had a bad accident a couple years ago, and I was in the hospital for 9 days that I don't even remember. And I was supposed to go up and play with Steel Panther that one night, and I had not really healed from my accident yet, and I didn't play with them, so that I missed playing with Steel Panther at the chance, and they had it set up for me to play with them too. So that was kind of a bummer.
That would have been classic.
That is a bummer.
Next time.
Next time.
All right, Lynn, you're up.
So, you notice I'm wearing my handy dandy jacket that's like 25, 30 years old because I'm old as dirt. And it's kind of hot, but that's all right. I'll leave it on for a little bit. So this guy who I absolutely love, and you guys know because I mentioned him a lot on the show, and you guys know, right? Queensryche, Jeff Tate, of course, those are my staples that have played the club, and I love them. But this guy, because he's one of my favorite singers ever, and he's played the chance 3 times, not just once, not just twice, 3 times, Ronnie James Dio. So he played on June 12th, 1994. Hell yes, Sydney. The Strange Highways tour, which was fucking amazing. And that was with Vinny Appice, Tracy G, and Jeff Pilson. And he did everything, all the classics. He did Mob Rules, Holy Diver, Rainbow in the Dark, Last in Line, Heaven and Hell. He played then. That was fucking amazing. I was like so excited that I got to see him. And then he also played, which I didn't love this album, was the Angry Machine tour in '97.
Shut up.
No, go fuck yourself. Wait,
Wow,
Oh, it's both outside.
that's language.
Nice.
see?
That like
Nice,
cut out
right?
of like magazine.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Ransom
She
note.
just did it.
Maybe I did. Either way,
You notice how hers is all crazy, like she's trying to like kidnap me and hold me for ransom.
Yeah,
That's some
is.
stalker
Yes.
shit right
Yes.
there.
It's like a
I-
serial
that is
killer
stalker
letter,
shit.
right?
Yep.
I love Butch. That's so funny.
I'm gonna kidnap you, but what the fuck kind of ransom am I really gonna get?
Which is going to be on that milk cart right next to John Sykes.
And you know what? I know where his key is, so I'm gonna get all that shit in his house, including the guitar.
Yeah, I knew she was gonna mention the guitar.
Either way, the Angry Machine tour, I didn't love the album, but it was the same band lineup, except it had a keyboard player, Scott, somebody, I don't know, whatever, keyboard player, but yeah, there you go. That's him. And then they played Long Live Rock and Roll, which is Rainbow, and I love that. And then my favorite time they played was in 1998 in the Inferno tour, and they freaking played Children of the Sea, Neon Nights, and they actually did a Deep Purple song, Mistreated. And the funny thing is every time I thought that some dude was mistreating me because it was the 80s, 90s, whatever, we would sing that song, and they played it, and it was fucking amazing. Ronnie James Dio. There's my number 2 pick.
Nice.
Machines is awesome.
All right.
It's a great
Says
record.
Yeah, I was at all 3 of those. Those were great. Those really were great shows.
They were
That's where
freaking
I got
amazing. And maybe I'm missing something. Maybe I just didn't hear it enough.
I don't remember. Maybe it was the 97 show, but I think it was 97. They had one of those Dio tours, 97 or 98. They had My Dying Bride opening up.
Yeah,
for-
that was the
for Dio.
97 show. That was
I was
the
like, holy shit.
Yeah, because
this is amazing.
94, Love Hate opened up in 94. That I
That's the
remember.
one I saw.
Yeah, and I actually liked Love Hate.
They were cool.
Yeah.
For a while.
I
There was
actually
like
got to meet.
For a little
1,500
while.
people in that 97 show.
Was there that many? Yeah, I remember a lot of people. But I just remember, I think, right, that was like My Dying Bride's only like US tour probably.
Yeah.
You know, they've come over for festivals, but
Yeah. It was a good show, but it was like early May, and it was
yeah,
like
it's hot.
150,000 degrees
Yep.
in there because it was.
I remember that.
People.
It was awesome.
This was back
And
in the
then
day
it's
when
funny 'cause-
people were still smoking in bars, right? So it was.
Oh,
Yes,
yeah.
that's a
Right.
great point.
Yep.
Yeah.
Great
Yeah,
point.
you went home smelling of the
Stinking.
Chance and cigarettes, you
Yeah.
know? But it's
I
funny
still
because I don't
smell like
remember the
cigarettes.
year. Then I actually worked as a runner for when Dio played the Civic Center. I don't remember that year, but he was a nice guy. I
I
really,
know Dio did the Civic Center in 1990.
yeah,
Off the
he
top
was,
of my
he was,
head.
he was amazing.
Yeah.
He was awesome. What a nice
I
guy.
saw the Holy Diver and the last.
So sad.
Yeah. He played 83, 84, and then 90 with Ron Robertson, and I boycotted because Viv wasn't there. So no Viv.
You actually
Evil.
boycotted show. I just don't go to shows. I don't have shows to boycott because I don't go to that many. But you've actually boycotted the
I
show.
boycotted.
Oh yeah, Butch boycotts a lot of shows.
Then
That's awesome.
Someone's got to do it.
True. That's true.
I got to meet Ronnie James Dio at the
I did too. Yeah.
1994. That's where I got my photo with Ronnie, and it's the one that's still hanging in my studio.
Well, that Megadeth show that we did at the Chance, we were on tour with Dio at the time, and that was
Yeah.
one of the one-offs.
Yeah.
Oh, were you?
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
we were playing
Nice.
with Savatage, Megadeth, and Dio, and we did Allentown and some other play. We played Corpus Christi, Texas, and we had to hide the drummer in Savatage from the police that night because he had he had an incident with the young lady in Corpus Christi back then.
Uh-huh.
Yes.
Oh boy.
I remember I got Polaroids with the police. I had them arrest me and get Polaroids because I was 19. I was like, this is really, so I had the Texas Rangers like put me in handcuffs and get Polaroids. I'm like, they were like, why are you doing this? I'm like, because I'm freaking on the road with Dio and Megadeth, and I want to be arrested by cops and have pictures. I didn't even start drinking yet. So for me, everything was fun back. I didn't know what I was
That's
doing.
so
I'm like,
funny.
somebody just pretend like I did something wrong.
Right.
Arrest me. I want a Polaroid of being arrested. So that was pretty funny. But yeah, that was that year. Anyway, interrupted again. Wrong venue.
Yeah.
Wheeler, Steve, you're up.
It's my turn. I got so many shows. I'm just picking them off my list as I go through.
One. Pick one.
Listen here.
It's your
If you want to
second one.
start
Don't-
trouble with me, we'll book a match anytime you show up, and we'll settle this out man to man.
Hudson Valley Squares
I
death
can
match.
tell you what shows he didn't go to, like the last
Yeah,
time
all
I
right,
played
so
there with
Chris-
Burrow, and I
Chris
said,
is
I
always
always
talk
first.
for
and
me,
he
so
never
Butch
showed
doesn't
up.
get mad because Butch seems to think that I talk too much, and I
I
seem
don't
to sit
think you talk
quietly
too much.
for like a half hour.
You just started your second pick by saying, I've got a lot of choices right
I
here.
really
We
don't.
all
I
have
mean,
a
I
lot
don't
of
know.
choices. Stop the seats, Butch.
I was gonna pick one, but I don't want to make you in a worse mood than you already are, so I'm not gonna pick
Drink it,
that.
I'm fine.
That's what
Alright.
happens when you get old. You get cantankerous.
Yeah. Well, some people do at least. Anyhow, my number 2 is gonna go with one from us a few years ago. It was Summer Slaughter. Frank took a big chance, brought in the festival to the chance. It was a hot summer July day. I think it started like 2 in the afternoon.
Oof.
I was proud to get the Rock Fancy name onto it. I don't think it was an anniversary show, but it was like a death metal who's who. That tour with Summer Slaughter usually did a little bit more of the newer style bands. This one they went old school. Cannibal Corpse headline. Nile was on that bill. Suffocation was on the bill. My good friends from Brazil, Crisian. The other bands were on the bill were like After the Burial, Revocation, some of the newer style bands. Just had a great time that day. We had a booth set up from the store, and it was a really good. I call it like a death metal summit. Just a lot of the old school bands all play in the great building. That was and I don't have years for any of these things, so it was in the last 10 years. So I'd say probably 2015, 2016. Chris probably knows.
Yeah, I was gonna say, Steve, you don't remember. You gave me a lot of shit that day because it was fucking hot, and Chance was having like 50 bands, and I just wanted to see Cannibal Corpse. And thank God I lived 10 minutes from the Chance. In the old days, I was an hour. So I drove over. I met Steve at like 4 o'clock. We had a beer. He gave me a ticket, and I was like, all right, I'm going home. I'll come back in like 9 hours. And I did. I came back at like 10 o'clock at night, and I watched Cannibal Corpse and went back home.
And he missed Nile, he missed Suffocation, he missed
I got the
Crisian.
olds, man. I can't stay all day for that.
Oh, come on, you're not that old. You're younger than me.
Maybe
my
he
back-
had laundry to do.
Yeah, I had to wash my
maybe.
hair.
He snuck
He
out.
had to wash that
He
gray
He doesn't support the local and the new acts.
I've been supporting so much my back hurts.
Oh, and talking about that Ozzy show, I scalped a ticket from Professor Ed McCarthy to go.
Aw,
I mean, it was really hard to get tickets for some of these shows. I mean, another one I could talk about, which I'm not going to mention, because Butch will get mad, but I don't care if he does. There was another giant band that played in there, and I try to remember, did this really happen? Emerson, Lake and Palmer played the Chance.
I was gonna mention that.
Absolute sweat box. And it wasn't very comfortable to watch Emerson Lake and Palmer to me. I want to be sitting out on the grass or sitting in a nice, comfortable chair listening to them, not like just to watch ELP.
Not
But
a
it was
club
such
band.
a memorable concert. I might have stole somebody else's pick with that.
That was, you know what? I was at that show. You're absolutely right. Besides that Ozzy show, that was the most packed show I think I've ever been to at the Chance. That it was mobbed, but it was mobbed with older people. And I remember I was over, and you guys know where my corner is. There.
Yeah, behind the bar.
And I was when I walked up, there was an ambulance out front. I'm like, oh, this isn't a good sign. And then during the show, I'm watching them come out with a stretcher, taking people out to the fucking ambulance. So it was so hot, and again, ELP was for a little bit older crowd, and yep, they were taking people out in a stretcher.
I don't know. Was it more crowded than the Pat Benatar in a Murata freaking tour?
Yes.
Because
Oh,
that was
I
all
was at
the
that one
rooms
too.
were
That was a lot
opened,
of
and that
people.
was we were sardines. There
ELP
was well over 1,100 people at that show.
ELP was mobbed.
Oh,
Steve,
yeah.
okay, tell him, Steve.
Yeah, I know. I gotta ask Frank
Another
numbers.
really packed show I remember
I'm
from
gonna
the
ask Frank
early 80s.
numbers.
Another really packed show I remember from the early 80s was Joan Jett. I saw Joan Jett there once.
I wasn't there for that one.
Early 80s. So
And that
way
was
early.
the Chance is a difficult show in the wintertime when it's packed, because you have to make sure that you either don't, you want to, was there coat checks there that we trusted? Because I know a lot of times you would dress for the winter and you would get in there, and when it was packed, you were dressed too warm to be inside that place, because once
Yeah,
that
you
place
gotta
filled up,
freeze and wait in line.
yeah, so
pretty
you had to
much,
leave your jackets and have like t-shirts on when you got in there, or you were
You did. There
miserably-
wasn't a coat check back then. They do it now. They try to do it
Do they
now.
have a coat check? I didn't even know they had one.
Now they try to do it. They have like a big coat rack, and they use the tickets, and they try to do it now.
In the 80s, they did downstairs.
Yeah, I remember
but
there was,
that's true, it was
places, that's
downstairs,
right.
yeah,
There
in
was
80s.
places we used to do something, but it was always when that place
Yeah,
got
yeah.
above a certain number of people, no matter what time of the year it was so
hot.
hot in there. And
Yeah.
the winter, of course, you're dressed,
Now
you're
it's
walking
upstairs.
from your car to the venue and you're freezing, and then you get in there and for like the first 20 minutes you're fine, and then all of a sudden you're just sweating.
Well, Chris
Butt
makes a great point, but now with the smoking, the worst part is if you go to a show, now you got to go smoke outside. So that door on the left, some fucking idiot is always going out in the middle of winter, leaving the
Always
goddamn
open.
door open.
Yeah,
Yeah.
You got a blizzard coming in for all the fucking time.
always.
I've had some memorable times out in that little corner of where the smoking area is.
They do have a security guy there now.
Yeah, they do.
I've
Yeah.
had some memorable times out there with the death metal cruise and whatever.
All right, back to our center square, Sydney.
So kind of touching on Lynn's pick really quick, the shirt that I'm wearing was actually my dad's shirt that I got on the Last in Line tour at the Civic Center.
Nice.
Oh, yay.
There's, if I can go to the show, then at least I get the t-shirt 30 years later, right? So
Oh,
I
yes.
it says Poughkeepsie on the back, so I'm not going to turn around because I don't, whatever, but I love this shirt. So it's just funny they picked that. So
Hell yes.
anyway, my second pick is going to be actually a show that I got to play a show at the Chance when I was in high school. And I had to pick this because, look at that. Look at
Holy
that
Diver shirt from the Civic Center.
Nice.
Nice.
Yeah.
I still have it.
I told that to you, Butch. That was the one that it's funny. My dad took my godfather, who's my dad's best friend. That was his first show in 1983 at the Civic Center. And he never lets me forget it. So I live with that one every day.
That was a great
And at least I have the shirt from the next year. But yeah, so I wanted to pick a show that I played and nobody came. I got to be honest. It was, I got to play a show that I opened up for another band when I was in high school. But for me, it was a really big deal because, I mean, I was going to the Chance and I got to play the Chance. And Lynn, that was actually how I met Brooke from the band Plush. She saw me play that night and we ended up kind of connecting. But it was just a fun experience. You know, I remember seeing photos of David Bowie and audio playing there and just different, videos and things from just that venue. And, it was just really special to be able to say, hey, I don't even really perform now very much, but, I got to have that experience of getting to, sing songs on that stage. So that was a pick I wanted to have. So that's my second one.
That's awesome.
That Bowie show you were talking about too. It was amazing.
Yeah, I freaking wish. I see there's pictures of him signing autographs outside. And every time I pass by it, I'm like, he's so close.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's pretty cool.
I got a question for everybody real quick. Did the Stones ever play there? I thought they did.
Oh,
Never practiced anything in there. For some reason that was
Not that I'm
hazy in my
aware
head.
of.
I was just saying, I didn't think Alice Cooper ever played there either. There were
he
some.
didn't. He played the Civic Center 6 times.
Yeah,
though.
he never played there. And this, I was thinking because Guns N' Roses obviously played there. There was a lot of, I feel like bands that eventually kind of played shows there when they were unknown. But I don't remember Alice ever playing.
He was big. He was big, in the 70s.
Yeah.
There was a handful of artists that would use that place to do a warm up, sort of like we were talking about with
I would have
Slayer.
thought though maybe
I think
he would have done that. I mean, I guess not because it was when he came back, obviously came back and it was on MTV and it was a huge thing. So I mean, that would have been the only time I think that maybe he would have when he was kind of coming back and had Constrictor and Razor Fist and Yell and
he played the Civic Center on those
I was gonna
shows.
say, yeah, he played the
Yeah, he
Civic Center.
played all the
those
Civic
runs.
Center.
Saw him on Razor Fist and Yell, which is still absolutely my favorite Alice Cooper record, and he destroyed. That was actually Megadeth opened for him. That was awesome. That show there was great.
If I'm not mistaken, wasn't that the Constrictor tour? Because wasn't Raise Your Fist and Yell, wasn't that Ace Frehley and Faster Pussycat?
I say Megadeth. I don't. You could be right because
Because they were kind of close together.
I did not go to Constrictor. I did go to Raise Your Fist and Yell. And
That's the one I went to. The
Constrictor was
Constrictor tour sold out
86.
right away.
I've got one of my ticket stub books right here. So keep talking.
Yeah, Constrictor was 86, and then Razor Fist and Yell was 87.
Yeah,
So
it was definitely 87 because that's my favorite album. I was
Right.
there for that.
I saw Constrictor at the Capitol Theater in Passaic. I think I
Oh.
saw that one there.
I have the ticket stub right here, but I did not write on who, it doesn't say on the ticket. This is Alice Cooper. And a lot of the shows I wrote on it who was playing with them, and I didn't. But it was November 10th, 87.
yeah,
And the ticket cost $16.50.
Wow.
Wow, that's
crazy.
amazing.
You actually paid? Holy shit.
It was a Civic Center.
Oh, okay.
And it was 87.
Oh, all right. All right. I'll
Hey,
give you a
Steve.
pass.
Steve, do you remember you mentioned before about bands going there kind of incognito and playing gigs? Didn't Blue Oyster Cult play at the Chance quite a bit under
Yeah.
the software?
Yes,
Software
they
Underbelly.
did.
Like,
Oh,
Software
yeah, I saw
Underbelly,
it a
yep.
couple times, yeah.
Yeah, I thought so.
When they were so big that they couldn't go in as BOC, they were soft white underbelly in quite a few clubs back in those days.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah, exactly. All right, Butch, back to you.
Well, to be consistent,
You know what he's gonna pick. No, maybe I don't.
well, you know one of them, but you don't know which one I'm doing right now. So
Well,
first, before I even say my pick, so I'm sure people are kind of understanding it. I've been living at the Chance since I was a kid. So my first show I went to the Chance, I was 15 in 1983. My mom took me to see Quiet Riot on the way. So like I was saying before, bands on the way up or on the way down. They were on the way up. Come on, Feel the Noise was on MTV and it was starting to blow up. And I saw them then on the crest up. And then, so I haven't left since 1983. So that's where that is. So my second pick, this isn't, well, I'll get to it. So this is the tour program when Thin Lizzy got back together with Sykes and Gorham and down everybody that was, part of the band, except for Phil in 1994. They did a Japanese tour. I had a friend of mine that was working on the tour and he sent this home to me with autographs from everybody, which is fucking awesome. And just, I gotta work on this glare thing, but there's Sykesy there. So I gotta tell the story and I gotta rat out Frank. So we keep talking about Frank Pallett that owns the Chance, and I'm gonna make sure that he watches this so he can see me rat him out again. So Thin Lizzy played at the Chance on October 10th, 2003, which was a Friday. I will never forget it. It was a Friday night. Now, the problem was anybody that knows me for 5 minutes and talks music understands that Thin Lizzy is my favorite band. That whole week, Thin Lizzy had been rehearsing at the Chance. So the show that Friday was the first show of the tour. Sykes, Gorham had been in Poughkeepsie the whole week rehearsing.
and you didn't know.
I go to the show Friday night. I get there. I go to over in my corner, my spot. I'm talking to Frank, and Frank sees me and he's like, "Oh shit. I got to tell you something, and I know you're not going to be happy, and I'm just going to apologize to you now. I'm sorry. I don't know why I didn't think of it, but Thin Lizzy's been here all week rehearsing on the stage, and I forgot to call you and let you know that they were here."
Why would he even tell you at that point?
Yeah, at that point,
exactly.
Yeah, yeah.
Leave it alone.
Wait for that to be a bat. That's something somebody told you that night, and you
Oh.
get you
I'm
can
like-
escape that without letting that news out.
I'm
That's
like, you
salt in the
fucking
wound.
kidding me? Sykes has been in Poughkeepsie all week. I could have been hanging out with him. We could have gone out to dinner because by this time I kind of knew him a little bit, tells me that night, "I'm sorry, you can hate me." But I finally got to see a version of Thin Lizzy. Obviously, it's not the same without Phil, but whatever. I got to see a band called Thin Lizzy play those songs I never thought I would ever get a chance to see. And if you can see that,
Awesome.
Sykes gave me. Now he didn't use this because this is definitely not a pick that Sykes would use, but that's the pick he was throwing out to everybody. But that's the pick he was using. He used metal picks back then. It unfortunately doesn't say anything on it. It's just a plain old pick, but he placed it in my hand and then went in my book, and there you go. So October.
Is that a thinner or thick metal pick?
No, it's a heavy.
Is it a heavy?
It's heavy. You ain't bending that thing.
As A lot of people like to use the thinner ones. I know even Eddie used thin ones.
Yeah, so you get some flex to it.
Yeah.
But that was a complete dream come true to see some of the original members of Lizzie playing and touring and playing those songs. I was so ecstatic, except when Frank told me that they had been in Poughkeepsie all fucking week long and forgot to tell me.
Which is so, at that point, it's like, why would you even tell
Well,
you?
because he had to apologize beforehand because Butch would have found out inevitably. And then he was going to go up to him and be like, what the hell? You didn't tell me? So it's better off that you just come clean off the bat. I fucked up. I didn't tell you.
Yep. But it was a great show. It was packed and it was awesome.
Well, Sykes sang that stuff better, I think, than anybody else that has.
100%. I can't stand
Really, I
voice.
saw that tour, and he was amazing at that. He channeled all the influences he had from that man and him when he did that show, without a doubt.
100%.
Cool. Good story. Mr. Allo, you next.
Sure. Well, I gotta ask Butch a quick question because I'm like thinking in my head because okay, yeah, I've seen Thin Lizzy with John Sykes, and I'm like, wait, I seen Thin Lizzy with like Vivian Campbell.
Yes.
I'm like, is that like a conflict of interest?
No.
Okay.
You know what? Sykes is Sykes. I can't say nothing about Sykes, but I got to tell you, you saw him at PlayStation or whatever they were calling it.
Yeah,
at
I
the
was
time.
at that one.
Viv channeled Brian Robertson so perfectly.
Yeah, he
It
was
was
great.
like watching Scott Gorham and Brian Robertson. Viv did all of the accents, the little wow wow things. He played. Oh, Viv was on fire because I know Viv is a humongous Lizzie fan. He's
Okay.
he's Irish, and
Viv
that
is
was the
good.
band. Matter of fact, Viv was upset because Viv thought he was going to get the gig that Sykes got in '83. So, Viv goes on the Dio and Sykes gets the Lizzie gig, but Viv thought he was going to get the Lizzie gig because Sweet Savage, his band from Ireland, toured with Lizzie. So, and then when Snowy White left and they were
Right.
looking for a guitar player, he's like, this is it. I'm going to get it, and then didn't get it. So he was a little irked. But yeah, it was phenomenal. Viv was phenomenal playing with them. I was so happy I got to see that, man.
Oh, cool. I just, in my head, it was like, oh my God. Like, this is like, for me, this is like Batman and Darth Vader, like fighting over Wonder Woman. Like, who do I go with?
It's
So
the
I was
same
like,
but
"No,
different.
Same but different. Same but
Yeah.
different.
Oh, it's the same. You're still a child when either one of them walks in the room because I've been there to witness both.
I don't act like a child, but I'm happy
Oh,
that
you
you're
are
there.
like a giddy schoolgirl. Don't you lie.
I don't act. No, I
I'm
don't
not
act
saying
like
you act like anything. You are smiles from ear to ear.
inside I'm 15.
Oh, outside you were 15.
All right, so I
Maybe
gotta
17.
say, because I Butch and I were hanging out that night in New York City during that show, and every time I looked, we were talking quite a bit during the set, but every time I looked over, you had this grin on your face during that entire set. So no kidding,
Nice.
you were enjoying the hell
Kidding
out of
me?
Oh,
I
man.
took a picture of Butch and Viv at the Chance before doors even opened. He was so excited.
It was awesome.
Not that I wasn't, but I'm a chick. I'm always excited, like
The Viv thing runs back to 1980. You know the whole lineage of that whole thing. But he's a very important and special person to me, Viv.
Well, especially if you still have the pants.
There you go. All right, Chris, finish.
Okay. I'll try and make it quick.
I'm sorry, Chris.
No worries. No worries. I was a huge King Diamond. I still am a huge King Diamond fan. I saw King Diamond in '87 at Lemoore, and I was shocked when it was announced that King Diamond was going to play the Chance in '88 on the Them tour a year later. And I was a big fan, so I had tickets to see King at the Ritz in New York City on September 10th, 1988, and then at the Chance on September 16th, 1988. But King came down with a sore throat, so the New York City show got canceled. So even though the Chance, which was the B or C market, wound up being the first show I saw on that run, but the show was memorable for me for a couple of reasons. One, like I said, I was a veteran of the New York club scene, so I went with a friend of mine, and we were 17, and I was like, dude, the show is 16 and up. Bring your ID. Yeah. We get there. It was me and 3 friends in 2 separate cars, and we got there, and we get to the door. We all got our tickets, and he's like, "Oh, I left my ID home." I'm like, fucking Predator, fall behind, you're on your own. I'm like, I'm going in, man. I'm not missing King Diamond. So he got stuck out there, but eventually they did let him in. A cop came over. But I remember like in '88, they were really hard up, and we were big kids, but they wouldn't let my buddy in. So I remember that. I remember the cancellation. So it wound up being the first gig I saw. And I remember that I remember talking with the same guy, and he was like, we were just talking about like what song you'd want to see them do. And I was just freaking out. I was like, oh, I would fucking like literally shit my pants if they did a Dangerous Meeting for Merciful Fate. And King did this awesome Merciful Fate medley, and he did it. And he did like 3/4 of a Dangerous Meeting.
Did
It was
you
awesome.
shit?
I did. Well, yeah, for like months, my buddy's like, you lost that bet. I'm like, dude, I am not going to shit. A, I'm not going to shit in my pants. A, and B, you were the one crying outside because you fucked up because I told you to bring your fucking ID. So I'm not shitting my pants. Sorry to squelch. But yeah, and I remember the thing I was shocked too, might have been the only time I ever saw pyro at the Chance. King used to do this gimmick where he would bring out the creepy goat skull, and he would hold it and he would like jam it down his throat, and he would hold it up and flames would come off. And then he would do something from Fatal Portrait, and where he would bring out the mirror, and he would hold the mirror up and it would burst into flames. I mean, it wasn't like stage pyro, but listen, you guys have all been to the Chance. Like, you do not want to be lighting shit off in there.
Yeah, no.
And King Diamond did it, twice on the same night. So, obviously this could have ended tragically back then, but thankfully it didn't. But that was a phenomenal show. So that was my King Diamond story.
I was there for that one, man. Mickey D crushed.
Killer.
Yeah.
Killer.
Yeah.
Very cool. Yeah, I missed that one. Mr. Scow, what do you got?
All right, so I'm gonna go to a show. I think I've told the story before, but it's a little silly story. So I had to look up this date. So this was April 28th, 2006. It was a great show that came through. It was Immolation, a great New York death metal band, and Exodus played there. And Exodus at the time had Rob Dukes, I think it's a Hudson Valley guy, I think from Nanuet or something. So he was singing at the time. Obviously, Steve Zetro was long gone. He came back. So they go into their set. I was fucking lit. So I used to get pretty tanked at shows in those days. And half of the set that they played was mostly newer stuff. And halfway through, they start busting out songs from their first album, the best album, Bonded by Blood. So they go into A Lesson in Violence. So I'm like, all right, it's time to go in the pit. So I'm, fucking, doing my thing. And somebody is in the pit. And they're wearing this big ass fucking championship ring. It didn't happen, but they fucking right in the head, just knocked me out cold. Just like I just dropped like a fucking sack of flour. So obviously this guy had a hell of a right hook. It was like Mike Tyson got me. So I blink and I wake up. I'm like, oh fuck, I'm like, I'm totally dazed, like everything's spinning. I see like 3 of everybody, and I'm like, ah shit. Wipe my hand, and my hand's red, and like my whole face is just blood. I was like fucking Predator, So I'm like, shit. So I go over, I talk to my buddy Rich. I'm like, he's like, go in the car. I have some band-aids. Go wrap your head up. So I go out in the car, and thankfully they still allowed re-entry, but I think the guy at the door is like, okay, yep, you can go. That's fine. So I go out to the car, and I thought he was going to have like a Band-Aid, but he actually had like fucking gauze. Like I had like a fucking like a traumatic head wound here. So I ended up, I didn't know what to do. I was all fucking drunk. So I took like this 6-foot wrap of gauze and just wrapped it around my fucking, like a fucking, mummy. And I go back.
They stopped Ryan because they thought he was a terrorist.
Yeah, well, no, it wasn't that much. I mean, this is all a drunk and hazy memory. So I'm like, well, I want to go see the rest of the set. I think I only missed 2 or 3 songs. So I had to look up the set list here so I could look. I'm like, yeah, I got back in and I actually went into the song Bonded by Blood. So I missed 1 song. So I was pretty expeditious about this. So after the show, I go outside. Well, I don't know if I went back in the pit because it fucking hurt real bad. I'm like, I'm just going to enjoy the rest of the show from like the fountain side here. I go out after.
Good idea.
I'm hanging out.
Learn my lesson.
I'm hanging out by the tour bus, and then Rob Dukes, the singer, he sees me and he's like, please tell me that fucking happened during our set. I'm like, yeah, man, some dude just fucking leveled me. Like, I'm not a small guy, but I'm just knocked me out cold with 1 punch. I'm like, yep, I wrapped my head up. I came back in, saw the rest of your set. And he's like, oh, fuck, man. Gave me this huge, sweaty, nasty hug. He was so happy. I know. He was so happy that someone like fucking knocked me out and I was bleeding everywhere.
Oh, what a nice guy.
During their set.
Yeah, it's like it happened during our set. I'm fucking happy. That's the kind of band they were. They were kind of a crazy thrash band, anyways. But
Sounds like a nice guy.
yeah, it was that was a good set. I've seen Exodus 80 billion times. I can't
Kidding.
really say if that set was any
Again,
better
murder
or
in the
worse.
front row. Pretty apropos for that
Moses must
experience.
die.
It was, yeah,
Goes
you're right,
hand
you
in
know,
hand with necrotic vault
Yeah.
runner.
Sydney, you're right. It was literally murder in the front row.
Front row. Yeah.
I've been hit a lot of times in a lot of mosh pits, and that was definitely the hardest hit I've ever took at a show. It fucking sucked. But in hindsight, it's
And
a
of
good
course,
choice,
if you're the band and see somebody get hurt and a thrash or a death metal band, they're like, hope you got hurt during our set, man.
Oh yeah, and
Yeah.
that's just
Hope
and
you
I-
were
I'm
raging
glad
for
we had
our
that kind of
band, you know.
experience, too. Yeah, that was I
Man,
can't say
the
if that set was
person-
better or worse, but it was
Hope you got that gaping wound when I was doing that solo.
Yeah, the person didn't. They just like walked. I mean, I guess yeah, you're in the middle of moshing, right? You're not really giving a shit who you're hitting or the reaction.
I feel like it was a deliberate hit because it wasn't like a glancing. It was like a full contact, you know. But I was drunk.
That's
I might have. You know what? I might have very honestly like knocked somebody's girlfriend over and it's like, well, fuck this guy. You know that could have happened. Who knows? You know.
Yeah.
You get drunk, you go in the pit. You know, stupid
I
shit
tell
happens.
you that little orchestra pit at the Chance. Sometimes you could go and work a show there or something and not even be interested in the bands. Like I worked a lot of hardcore stuff there, which you're just watching that. It's like watching an event. That little pit, that little cubicle. When you had like thrash metal bands or hardcore bands, like Pete was saying, watching the Slayer thing from upstairs. If you're sitting on the edge of that balcony some nights and you're watching some bands you're really not into, but you're enjoying the show, watching the pit, you get a couple people in there, and it's just, you know, that pit is pretty legendary at the Chance. You know, the Chance is
How many people could they fit there? I'm not trying to get anybody in trouble, but like,
Yes, in the orchestra pit. I don't know.
what would fit there when it's completely full? Because that space is pretty small.
It is.
Tiny.
But there's a lot of people in there. Like, how many people do you
You're
think
on
is
the
the most they ever had in that spot?
I don't know.
100 is probably
You mean
packing
the
it
club
up.
or just right in the pit.
No, the pit,
one little front pit.
the orchestra pit. Yeah.
'Cause
Lots
there's
of
always,
people.
I've seen a lot of
Yeah,
quite
probably a
lot of
couple
people.
I
hundred.
mean,
That
if the
spot
place
is like-
fits 700, I'd say maybe 100 in there.
Yeah,
I don't
A lot
know.
of people. That's crazy.
Oh,
Maybe
more
two
than
if you
that.
slice
When
them
they're
thin enough.
moshing, you can't fit that many. But
Yeah, but that's
Chris has a word.
fun
What-
spot. It's a fun spot. You make your way down there a lot of times and watch a little bit, and then you get out. But you want to get down in the middle of it, at least be down there.
Right.
Then you escape your way out again. But
Depends who's
definitely
playing.
fun.
I mean, if it's a traditional metal band, you're safe to stand down there the whole night. But, you got Suicidal Tendencies or Biohazard or, you know, Creator or, you know, band or All Out War or something like that, you know.
One of
You're
those
taking
spots
life
too,
in your hands.
you have to wait till somebody leaves to go to the bathroom, and then you take their spot. Like, you wait
Done
for that
that
one
before.
special little spot to open, and then you slide in, and you're like, I'm here, and then you stay until you can figure out how to get out of it. Because sometimes you don't even know how you can walk out of it when you're in it. You're like, "Shit, I'm stuck in here now."
Shit's gonna start going haywire. You're like, fuck, I'm down here. I'm stuck here now.
Yeah, I think one of the one time that I like stayed down the pit for almost the entire show was during one of Chris' performance. So it was Savatage and Megadeth. So that was January 10th, 88. And I remember like being in the pit during Megadeth's set was pretty crazy. And as soon as they like launched into Wake Up Dead, everybody went berserk. And I remember everybody was kind of like holding each other's arms on each side. And you would just kind of like go like a train, and you go from one end of the pit all the way over to the other and try and level as many people as you possibly
Wall
could.
of Death.
Always fun.
Absolutely mayhem. Yeah.
The Wall of Death, Pete.
Yeah,
That's what that's
exactly. It was
called,
pretty cool.
yeah, you know, spread it out.
That was the
Bring it
first time I
together.
ever really saw that stuff, was on that tour. Then the next time Savatage toured, we had Testament with us, and they were always a big pit band. Chuck Billy,
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
he loved his pits, so that
Love
was
Chuck.
fun to watch.
Yep.
Oh man.
All right. So my next pick, I'm going to go non-metal and hard rock here because I've seen a bunch of like other types of shows there. So
How
in
dare you.
1988, in fact, it
Ooh.
was February 5th, 1988. I saw the Jazz Explosion tour, which of course, you know, featured Steve Smith, drummer from Journey, and Jean-Luc Ponty, Alan Holdsworth on guitar, Stanley Clark on bass, Randy Brecker on trumpet, and Bernie Wright on keyboards. and it was just like a super group tour they did. They didn't release an album or
Nice.
anything like that. And I remember like, I think there was an opening band, and I remember, the place wasn't that crowded or anything like that. I remember like I'm sitting at the bar and I'm drinking a beer, and I look over to the left at the corner bar, which would be right in front of where Butch normally stands. And I look over and I'm like,
And he was right there.
that's Alan Holdsworth sitting there by himself drinking a beer. And I'm like, and I'm 80, I'm like, what, 22 years old, right? What the fuck do I know, right? So I walk over to him like, Alan Holdsworth, how are you? Looking forward to seeing your show. And he looks over at me, he goes, it should be a good one. Cheers. And boop, he was gone. Like 2 seconds, 2 words, that's it. And he's out of there, It's like, oh, he's like, it's almost like he was like, oh, someone recognized me, it's talking to me. I got to get the hell out of here, right? But I remember I stood right in the front during the entire show, and I was just like, holy crap, this is some of the most amazing musicianship I had ever seen. And granted, this is 88, so I'm not really that much into jazz yet at the time. I would get more, much more into it later on, but I was thinking, watching these guys up there. I mean, Stanley Clarke, Steve Smith, Holdsworth, Brecker, I mean, just mind-boggling stuff. And I think that was like the start of me going to a lot of those types of shows at the Chance, which you could see a lot of that stuff. They would have these kind of like jazz and jazz fusion shows and blues.
Yeah.
I saw BB King there, like shortly thereafter, which I thought was amazing. But yeah, so that's my next choice. So
that's a good one.
I got a comment. I was at that show, and I know exactly where you were going, because I was over in quote unquote my corner, and there used to be a telephone over in the side there. And same thing, I'm standing there minding my own business, and I'm intermission, and I look around, and I look to my right, and there's Alan Holdsworth standing there drinking a beer, which is where you came over to say hi to him, and he was right next to the telephone, and I'm like, oh, holy shit, that's fucking Alan Holdsworth. I don't think I went up and said anything to him. I just looked over and saw him. It's like, wow, and and like you said, and then he was gone.
Yeah,
that was a phenomenal show.
Interesting. You were near a phone booth and he was gone like Superman.
Just like that. Hey, let me ask you guys a
That
question.
was funny. Stop it.
Does anybody remember? I could have swear I remember this back in the early days. I'm talking about the 80s. Did they not serve food there? And there was like a little.
Yes.
They used to.
Where you could
Yeah.
poke on the side, all the way like where Steve, where you used to set up your merch stuff.
They served food there. They served food there for a long time.
Yeah.
Not just in the 80s.
I think pre-Frank, that was a thing where, I mean, it was like a dinner theater. I remember going to see like someone with my wife and actually having like a prime rib dinner at the table.
It was a dinner
the tables
theater.
all around, as they were set up upstairs, and
in the early 80s.
It was an old
80s,
opera
late
house.
70s, probably, yeah.
In the 1800s, it was an old opera house. And where I bought it was actually a dumbwaiter. And it's still there. The dumbwaiter is actually still there, where they would bring the food up and stuff. It goes right into the kitchen.
That's what I remember. Okay.
I mean, there was later on, there was a little snack bar during like in the 2000s, I think, back in that one corner where you could get French fries. And then when the Nutty opened, people were going over there to get the food.
Right.
Yeah. All right, Chris Caffery, you got a last pick for us today?
Oh, let me think. I guess, you know what, since we're going back around on different things and times, I'm going to go through different times when I played. And I was trying to go through my head on, I mentioned some of the Savatage shows, but I think one of the other times that I played there, and this is no offense against Doro, because I did a couple of shows with her, but I had a lot of fun in the show I did with Metal Church there. That was one of those ones that just was one of the really fun shows from that run. I got to do a month playing with Metal Church from their guitar player had a retina problem with his eye, and that was one of the ones I did. And just being that was that close to my home, and I was getting to play that venue with that band and the Metal Church stuff. I was always a big Metal Church fan, but I never had a chance to play their music live, obviously, because I was always playing, the music of my bands when I was touring, and getting to play Kirk Vanderhoof's music live. That's some of the most fun live music I ever got to play. It really was just on stage playing Metal Church's music. It's just really super fun, like at the level of a lot of the classic Savatage metal. That stuff is just really fun, heavy metal music. And I think, like I said, just because I did have a lot of memories in that venue and been there a lot. And you look out in the crowd and you see a lot of the people out there, and it's always a lot of fun. And that was one of the gigs from that small month of dates I did with Metal Church. I think that was one of my favorite ones. I did love playing there with Doro and the stuff I did with Savatage, but That One Metal Shirt show was a lot of fun. I mean, I got to see a lot of great musicians there too that I never saw in other places. Like the last time Paul Gilbert was there, I was
Oh
really,
yeah.
really super impressed watching him play guitar in that situation, because he went through a whole gauntlet of different styles of music that I never really had seen him play before. And you just realize, you know, that guy is definitely on that other level that a lot of other musicians are at. I was sitting upstairs and, you know, watching from the edge of that balcony and just watching him do what he did, and it was a lot of fun to watch that, because he was such a great player. But I
Are
do
you
think,
talking about the show that he did with Nita Strauss? Like,
yeah, exactly. Yep.
yeah, I was there. That was
You
he's
know,
incredible.
That was a killer
Yeah.
show.
Yeah.
it was a really good show. And actually, I went up there, and because I'm pretty good friends with Nita, and I went up there to see them, and I always wanted to see Paul, and it was just that was a really, really
He was
great
awesome.
show all the way around. I thought that was a great night. And the last time I saw a band up there was that the Amish Outlaws band. That was a little bit before we shut down. I mean, that was wasn't that last winter, like right before we went to Mask World and stopped seeing things. I think that
Pretty
was
close. The last show I saw up there was Ross the Boss, or Manowar. That was right before.
That was like in end of February, right?
I think somebody had wanted me to go up to that one, and I didn't go for some. I
I
forget.
think it was me. I told you I was going if you wanted
That's
to try
right.
it.
Yeah. I can't remember exactly what stupid excuse I gave you for not wanting to go see Ross, but I think there's like, you know, the chances like it that it's about an hour from my house, so it's like if things I really want to see, that's a short drive. But no offense against Ross, but I was just like, there's something that night I was tired. I'm like, I stay home,
skipped it,
play pinball, or I go see Ross. Oh no, I didn't go.
You know what? I think Ross was a Sunday too. I didn't go either.
It was a Sunday night. You're right. But
Yeah, there must have been something.
Guy was there.
I was there. I was there too.
I was there.
And I, talking about the pit part, or a band like that, I pretty much watch most of that show from down in the orchestra.
Oh yeah.
Especially if it's a smaller crowd, I like getting down in there because the band really likes it when you're down in the pit watching them and not, in the up wherever.
It's really intimate. Be in the pit there. Yeah, it's like the band was right.
Yeah.
It's cool.
That I always feel like I always want to be in the front too, no matter what, when I go to shows. So
Depends who it is, yeah, for sure.
All right, Lynn, what's your final pick of the night?
Okay, well, I said luckily you guys to watch the show with Butch and I don't know, Butch does it sometimes too. Our friends are bouncers there and stuff, right? We go there all the time. So luckily sometimes they'll open the door for us and you're like watching right from the stage. So that's actually even cooler place to see the show. Or from the aerial view in the secret room, which is awesome. But my final show is when Rob Halford, again, another one of my favorite singers, played with Fight. And
I knew you were gonna pick
love the band Fight. I love it. I was listening to it today. I was actually with Joe Barr from The Chance at Rock Fantasy at Stephen Killer's shop, which again, there was no Stephen Killer sighting, but I bought some cool merch from his store. But yeah, Fight, Rob Halford.
It's a pandemic. That's why I'm not there.
I know, I'm fucking with you. Kidding. But again, Ross Parrish was the guy from Steel Panther. Everybody knows that, right? He played with him, and Scott Travis, like I love him. And even though he did play in a rendition of Thin Lizzy, and I think he still does. I don't know if he still does, but I know it's not your Thin Lizzy, but still.
No, he did.
And I know you don't really love him, but Racer X, he was great, and I love Scott.
No, I love Scott Travis.
And Brian Tilsey and Jay Brown, Jack Brown on bass, JJ they call him. But fucking that show, they started with Into the Pit. They ended with Green Manalishi and Bloodstone. Like it was sick. I did not work that night. I actually went that night as a fan, super fan, whatever the hell you want to call it. And it was ridiculous. And at the end of the night, two things happened. One, Scott Travis told my then ex-husband, I'm just going to steal her away. And now I'm thinking, why didn't I go? Like, not that he really was going to steal me away, but either way, I would have liked to go, if even for a night or two, for an hour. Aside from that, the cooler thing is Rob Halford fucking at the end of the night coming up the stairs and doing a meet and greet in the balcony. And he was kind of just very like eerie, lurky kind of. It was fucking Rob Halford. It was amazing. And I don't care. I was hugging him, kissing him. Like I love that man. And that was one of my favorite shows there for sure.
And you know what? Who hosted that show?
I think it was Z93, right? It was in the not Z Rockettes. Yeah, but wasn't it with the
Was Z-Rock.
right Z Rock? That's what I mean.
Yeah,
It was in the
I
Z-Rock.
hosted that show. Yep, for Z-Rock.
Fuck,
It was
this ain't about you. God damn it.
Z-Rock.
I always bring it around.
I know I'm fucking with you, Ted.
That was
But,
got a
but
promotion
so I did talk to Frank today, and I did say, you know what? I worked so many shows, like I forgot who played. He said, you know what? Mention these shows for me. So he said, and these are again some of my honorable mentions, which I'm sure I don't know if Butch is picking this one or not, but 1987, Gary Moore. I was not there, but you might have been there. I don't know.
Might have.
It's a joke.
Frank
It's
picked
a
these
joke.
up.
I was not there, but I wish I was there because I do love Gary Moore. Cheap Trick in 84, Cyndi Lauper, King Diamond, Third Eye Blind, Slayer, Motorhead, Godsmack, Bowie, Rob Zombie, who I was the runner for that show. He was in my car. It was fucking amazing. He's awesome. Pat Benatar, the Inamorata Tour, Alice in Chains, Soundgarden, Guns N' Roses, and Soundgarden actually did a Spinal Tap tune because that was a fun show. Overkill, Megadeth, and of course, Queensryche. And you can't remember, Butch, I think you were upstairs with us when Jeff Tate was upstairs and he had his bottles of wine and we were all drinking Jeff Tate's wine in the loft. So those are just some of the fun, memorable nights that we had at the Chance, and more to come, hopefully.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
I started using Digitech guitar electronics because of Queensryche at the Chance. I remember watching them. I'm serious. I was watching them and I talked to Michael after the show and his live sound was great.
Nice.
And I couldn't really hear him off the stage, but I heard him through the PA and it was so crystal clear. And he was using the Digitech 1101 and he called the Digitech people and I got an endorsement. I've used it since, and ever since he's moved to Kemper and his sound is still great on the other, but I've still stayed lazy with my Digitechs and haven't moved to Kemper yet. But it's really funny. I switched what I used as a live rig because of Queensryche at the Chance. And
nice. And what year was that? What year was
I don't
that?
remember. It was still Tate singing. Might
It's
have been
not
the-
lazy. It's classic. Your sound is now classic. Just-
No, he's lazy.
Exactly. It's classically lazy. I'm
Trying
not
to be
sure,
nice,
but-
Butch.
I'm not sure, but it's been at least 10 years. But I think it was the very last time that Tate was singing with them on the road and they were up at the Chance was that show.
Hmm.
And I think what's his name was still, I think Stone was still playing guitar.
Oh,
So,
Jesus Christ. Stone was with
Yeah.
him?
Is that
Wow.
Lifetime 2, maybe?
yeah, it was back there. They were doing the Minecraft, wasn't they? I think they were at the Beacon doing some stuff and then they came up and did Chance the following year different, but
Wasn't the cabaret
yeah.
tour, was
Well,
it?
No.
I don't remember. They did
The
have
joke.
they had a meet and greet for the band upstairs after the show, and that's where I remember talking to Michael about his rigs up there. But yeah, lots and lots of
Cool
years
people.
of
Rod
time.
Morgenstein from the Dregs. Oh my God.
Yeah. And it's funny that this has nothing to do with the Chance, but you guys mentioned King Diamond and Creator. Savatage was touring Europe with King Diamond, and we had a one-off night where we weren't playing. King Diamond was playing a death metal festival, and it was King Diamond, Creator, and some other really super heavy bands at the time. I couldn't remember who it was, and Creator canceled. For some reason, they couldn't make it, so they had us fill in, and we were on before King. And I remember in German, the host of the show up in front of this crowd, like 3,000 people, trying to explain to them that Creator couldn't play, and they're like, "Boo, boo!" And then you leave us just standing there with Johnny Lee looking at each other like, is our people gonna die? I was like, what's
Oh.
we had to go out there and play to the death metal crowd, but we won them over within 2 or 3 songs of the Savatage stuff. Then we put in all the heaviest stuff. We did not have any. I mean, the set was shorter, and we did like the Whip and White Witch and just the heaviest stuff we had, and it was a fun thing. But you guys were mentioning both King Diamond and Creator being at the Chance, and it made me think of that particular moment because I remember hearing 3,000 people boo when they said the band that was supposed to play wasn't, and we were. I was like, oh my God.
So bad.
Oops.
Wasn't a horrible replacement band. It wasn't like we were throwing in some local band. You're getting Savatage. So it was
Well, they
pretty
didn't
good.
mention that our name yet. So
Yeah.
just when he made the announcement that Creator wasn't playing, it was that initial reaction. So, but we still did well.
Cool story.
Mr. Keeler, what's your last pick of the day?
All right, so so many could be my number one, but I guess I'm gonna go with our 31st anniversary of the store. It was a band that had never played the Chance, a very mysterious, legendary black metal band, and Scal might be working with this one too. Mayhem played there, and it was a time when Cal Getter was doing shows with me there. Like Cal Getter was a guy that was coming in and booking some shows with Frank, and he was bringing back more of the extreme stuff to the Chance. And I'm like, Cal, did Frank book this by himself? And he's like, yeah. I'm like, wow, he booked Mayhem, and because we were, a lot being in the third market, and they weren't always booking a lot of the extreme stuff. But Mayhem showed up there and packed the place. The place was packed. I mean, not as packed as like the Ozzy and the Slayer and ELP, but it was a packed show. And Inquisition and Black Anvil were there with them, and I just had such a good time. I had so many friends that came out from all over. So I'm just going to go with that for number one. A couple of honorable mentions, like Lynn put up there. We also did one with Cal Getter, who I wanted to mention tonight, and of course Chuck Hicks, one of my good friends that bounced there for years, and the whole crew there at the Chance, man. And such great memories. We did a Voices from the Dark tour there, and I don't have exact year, but it was in 2016, I think 2017. Marduk from Sweden, Moonspell from Portugal, Inquisition, another great show that we had sponsored. The 29th anniversary was in a major snowstorm. It was Napalm Death with Voivod, Exhumed, Iron Reagan, Ringworm, like a festival. And it was snowing like hell. We were talking about that smoking area. I remember going out there just to go out and hang out and visit with friends, because you would go out there sometimes, even if you didn't smoke, just to go out there and chat with people. And it was like this big snowstorm. Somehow we all made it home from that one. But
that was a crazy fucking blizzard that night.
It was, right? And usually a lot of things get canceled, but that one, we were troopers. Getting home was kind of a murder. That's when after I had my accident, I was one of the first shows I came back to. I think I was still, with a cane and everything else when I broke my leg and my wrist. But another honorable mention was Pagan Fest that Cal booked together with Insiferum and Tyr and Heidelvolk, Troll Fest that played there. And then going back to the old days, Plasmatics Coupe d'Etat was one of my really memorable shows of being there with on Motorhead on the Another Perfect Day tour. Man of War I saw there, and Frank Marino, Mahogany Rush were there a couple of times. So that's pretty much my list of things. I'm sure I've left out at least 50, but you can only pick a couple. But I've always been proud of my.
Don't be mentioned Ace Frehley. No.
I've never seen Ace Frehley there, to tell you the truth. But it's something that I've been proud to be a part of. Working with the Chance and for so many years, and with Rock Fantasy, it was a place we always went to shows in Poughkeepsie, and a great episode tonight and a great topic, I think.
Very cool. Sydney, our center square, your final pick.
So my last pick is kind of similar to the same reasons why the Jeff Tate show was so memorable for me. I saw Sebastian Bach there a couple years back when I was first starting to go to shows there. And what was really funny about that show was that at the time, I didn't have like a vehicle, nothing like that. So I really wanted to go to the show, and I lived in Middletown, so it was about like 45 minutes away from the Chance, right? So I needed to get a ride to the show. And I like begged and pleaded everybody I knew, because none of my friends wanted to go with me. And because I was like the only like 14, 15-year-old who loved Sebastian Bach that much. So my grandmother was like, I'll drive you to this show. I'm not going in.
Nice.
She said, I'm not going in. I'll drive you to the show. So my brother ended up going with me, and my grandma was waited on the main street in Poughkeepsie while I went in to watch Sebastian Bach in her car. And it was the end of the show. And I start getting texts from my grandmother. You have to come out right now. I'm sick and tired of waiting in the car. You have to come out right now. You have to come out right now. There's people knocking on my windows. You have to come out right now. You have to come out right now.
Believe that.
And this is right before he's about to play Youth Gone Wild. And I like look at my brother and I'm like, grandma's like blowing my shit up. Like what do I do? And he's like, are you really gonna leave before Youth Gone Wild? And I was like, fuck no, I ain't leaving before Youth Gone Wild. So we stayed for the rest of the show. And my grandma was pissed at me because she was waiting on the
Getting mugged.
in Poughkeepsie in her minivan or whatever. But that was just such a memorable show. I mean, I've loved Sebastian Bach and Skid Row for many years. Like that was, I love the 80s metal, glam, whether you want to call it hair metal, whatever you want to call it. I love that period. So I love Skid Row. And that wasn't the first time I got to see Sebastian Bach. I'd seen him when I was much younger. And then that was kind of like the first time I'd seen him really have like a full set. And at that point, I loved him. I'd gotten into his solo stuff and everything that he was doing at that time. So that was a super memorable show for me. And yeah, I mean, I love the Chance. I think it's so, crazy how, I mean, not only have you guys been going there for as long as you have, but, it's also inspiring, other generations. And I think that the Chance was such a formative place for me in my life. Like it's, going to those shows and being in that environment was, just like the other push that I needed to realize that I wanted to work in music for the rest of my life. And just being in that environment, and every venue that I go to this day, like when I started to go to the TLA here, I was like, this is just a rip off of the Chance, to be honest. I was like, this is not, because I mean, a lot of those venues, the TLA wasn't around, I don't believe then. It was, kind of, they try to capture the atmosphere of a lot of those places. And I feel like with the Chance, that atmosphere is just there naturally because of the history of that building. I mean, I talk about it all the time on here. I grew up hearing stories about this venue and the shows that I wish I could have gone to, that I hear about, and the shirts that I have from these shows that my parents went to at that venue when they were getting into music and everything. So it's a really special place, and it will always be, I always say it'll always be my favorite venue on earth, because it's just, I don't know where I would be right now without going to shows there. So
it's home, Sid. It's home.
Yeah.
It's home. Oh yeah, it's home.
It's funny you speak of Sebastian Bach. So did anybody here go to see Skid Row opening up for White Line at the Chance before they even had a record contract? That was
I was about to say that. You just ruined it.
Sorry.
Oh,
my mom talked about a show that she had gone there, and it's really funny because that's another quick story. I still have the shirt, and the show that I went to when I saw Sebastian, Rob Affuso, because he obviously lives in the area, he came out and he played a couple songs with Sebastian, which is as close as I'll ever get to seeing Skid Row together. I mean, two out of 5, right? But I don't think it was the White Lion show because they'd already had the contract. But one that my mom went to a show, I believe it was 89 or 90 or whatever, I think after the debut came out, and she had made a shirt that said on the front, like, Skid Row, I remember you, and then on the back it said Rob Affuso kicks ass or whatever, because it was hometown hero, right? Newburgh, whatever. And Sebastian actually asked for it because she was holding it up, and he held it up, and it was like the whole thing. And I still have that shirt because she gave it to me. It's in my closet. When I was really getting into Skid Row, I was like, Sebastian Bach held this in 1989. His sweat's probably still on here somewhere.
Oh, gross.
I was like, it's still on here somewhere, right? So that's a funny one.
Very cool.
That's funny.
All right, Mr. Butch.
Actually, I was just going to mention that, and one of my honorable mentions is that being at, and actually, to be completely honest, I had no recollection who Skid Row opened for on that show, but to me, it's always just been the show that Skid Row got signed
at, yeah.
88 at Chance, and it was awesome. I had no idea, I literally had no idea that it was White Lion, but it was just, I knew Rob, like Sydney had just mentioned, Rob Affuso, the drummer of Skid Row, is from our area. And I've known him since I was 15 because he used to date one of my best friend's older sister, for Lynn Joe Guerreri. He used to date Anine.
I remember.
So I knew him, way back when. So it was great to see him leave the area, move to Jersey, get in this band that Bon Jovi was helping, and blah blah blah, and and then have them play in Poughkeepsie at the Chance and get signed at that show, which was phenomenal. But like I've said already a couple of times, that I was very fortunate to see bands on the way up and on the way down, and a couple in between bands. I've seen almost everybody I've ever wanted to see, Guitar Hero wise or otherwise, at the chance. So from being able to, like I mentioned Akira already from Loudness, but I mean, and Chris mentioned this King Diamond stuff, which was phenomenal, and seeing Mickey D and then the next year on a Conspiracy tour, and I had no idea that Mickey wasn't going to be there, and then you go there to see him, and then there's Snowy Shaw, who has become a really good friend of mine, and they're like, oh, wait, that's not Mickey D, who's this blonde guy? And they were phenomenal. I was like, holy shit, he started playing. I'm like, all right, okay, he's not Mickey, but he's fucking phenomenal. But you know, we somebody has to mention Guns N' Roses isn't my favorite band in the world, but that was a beyond legendary show.
I did mention it.
It's my turn now.
I mentioned it.
You mentioned it in the
Too late, I
I'm
mentioned
blowing it up a little bit more
Why?
because EZO opened. Because I did not go
that's
to
all
see,
right.
I actually didn't go to see Guns N' Roses. I love the band EZO today.
Yeah.
I went to see EZO and they were phenomenal. And then Guns N' Roses came out and did their thing. And this is 1987. And anyone who was at that show got a glimpse to see the pompousness that was Axl and his fur coat get mad and throw the mic stand down on the ground and storm up the stairs at the chance and left the band to finish the rest of the song and as an instrumental. So that was a complete.
Not surprising.
Yeah, not
How long did
surprising
you do
later
that
on.
for?
It
How
was
long
great
did he
foreshadowing.
Pete's favorite band.
He-
How long was he gone for?
that was it. He left for the set.
Really?
The set was almost over, but he
Okay.
left, and I think they might have played one more song, an instrumental.
Oh, okay, I'll be one. Right.
And that was it.
Every time Guns N' Roses is mentioned, I can just feel the judgment in Pete's Square. Like I can just feel it. I'm like,
you know what? I wasn't into them. I mean, I liked them, but I wasn't a big fan because everyone was already into them. But for that show, they were awesome. They really were. I mean, you got to witness the change of the guard. It was something to see a band that was that on fire and that street ready.
They were an awesome live band.
They were, man. They were
rhythm
undeniable.
section. I got a lot of I got to talk to Duff a lot because we did some festivals with his solo thing that he had, and he told me that him and Adler, the band was a lot of times kind of late to rehearsals or didn't make rehearsals or whatever was going on when they were in the clubs. And he said that those two used to sit there every day playing the drums and bass for those songs. And you can hear that on that first record. The drum, the kick drum and that bass guitar are married on that record. And that rhythm section live was unreal, that tour, like the Ritz concert and the other things. That was a very, 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 very good band. Not just, you know, putting that record out, but that was a great live band. And you know, they had their problems, but that's something you don't see all the time, that band. They were something really special.
Absolutely. But like I said, I mean, I could go on and be like Steve and mention 25 bands, but Steve doesn't.
Me, Lynn mentioned way more bands than me.
Yes, I did, because Frank told me to mention some bands. I just mentioned bands.
One of our viewers next week.
No, he
please,
didn't tell me. I'm kidding.
Let's time how long Butch talks and time how long I talk.
Oh my God, you guys need to stop. Get over it. Everyone's getting 15 minutes of fame.
He fired the first Scud missile. I'm just retaliating.
Oh my goodness, both of you need to simmer down now.
Anyway, my number one, as expected by Lynn, is April 28th, 1989. And I finally got to see my hero, John Sykes in Blue Murder.
I knew it.
And this is the program that is absolutely pristine, that has barely been opened. And it is absolutely perfect. And on top of that, which actually
was that the fur coat night?
No, that was 94.
Oh.
And then if you can see, I don't know if you can see, I'm still working on this. So this is the guitar pick that Mr. Sykes placed in my hand in 1989. And as Lynn talked about me being giddy, I was completely giddy then. I had waited since 1983 to be able to see Sykes. I was completely in my own planet. People were around me.
This is pre-milk carton Sykes, right?
Yes, this is pre-milk carton Sykes. They were on fire. Obviously, that was the three-piece. It was Sykes, Tony Franklin, and Carmine apiece. They were unbelievable. And God knows if he could have got a second album from that band. But goddamn, that is, you know, anyone that's part of the my stupid little group on Facebook, if anyone's watching this and wants to know the story, reach me on there. I've told this story a bazillion times, but that is my number one story on my hit parade of my heroes that I've been very fortunate to meet. And he was beyond cool. It was a complete dream. If you have that dream in your head that if I got to meet such and such and he was like this, and it was exactly everything he was scripted out. He was beyond cool to me, which is why I love the guy so much, besides his guitar playing, obviously, and his songwriting and his voice and everything else.
Dude, there's a song called fucking Girl Crush. I'm going to re-sing it and I'm going to call it Guy Crush. And it's going to be dedicated to you and Milk Carton Man. I swear to God.
Yeah.
Like,
If anybody out there jumps onto this Milk Carton Man thing, I'm out. Do not let that become a thing. This is all Chris Allen's fault. This is Chris's fault.
Wait, it's me? I made John Sykes disappear for 30 fucking years?
Fuck you all.
That's the only way I think of him as a milk carton guy. Because of Chris Allen.
I was kidding,
What
but
am I missing?
I think Butch needs to marry John Sykes already. John Sykes, come out of fucking hiding. Butch wants to marry you.
I think this episode keeps his name alive because I haven't heard
That's
it.
what I'm doing.
So
Exactly.
What am I missing?
Listen, he doesn't need a publicist. He just needs this show.
I'm hoping that it gets
He
back
needs
to him
Butch.
and he sees. See, there's a big plan around this. See, the album's gonna get released this year because of me talking about him every week.
Yeah.
I hope so. Jeez.
Yeah.
That's
Another
the guy
That
third.
show was phenomenal. I can't even
Oh, I can't.
explain to everybody how awesome. I had waited, like I said, that was at that point it was 6 years. 83 was really when I got into Sykes with Lizzie, and 6 years, and then the whole Weinstein thing happened. I didn't know, but I'd never see him, what was going to happen. And then all of a sudden he comes up with this Blue Murder thing, and then they come there, and it was magical. So that there's nothing that could ever top that show for me.
What's the milk carton thing? What am I missing?
Go ahead, Chris.
Tell him.
We may have talked about how John Sykes really is nowhere to be found, and maybe his picture will wind up on a milk carton. And then one of Pete's fans did a mock-up of a milk carton with "Have you seen this man?" and it was John Sykes on the back of the milk carton.
So
That's a running gag every week.
When you talked about it was your dream dead band, and that we should just kill John Sykes.
Oh,
because
yeah, that's right.
doing
That's
anything
true.
anyway.
that's where it started.
That was where it
Well,
really
at least I
started.
know now.
He would have fit
I-
perfect in my dead band.
Sykesy, I love you. I love you. I'm not a part of this.
Liar.
So Butch, I don't know if you caught it, but I was on, I guessed it on Sydney's podcast last week when we talked about Whitesnake and our favorite song. So in honor of you, I gave a goddamn when I was talking about John Sykes.
Yeah. We made sure to mention you because
Yes.
I also can't go a day in my life and hear John Sykes without being like Butch Jones up here in the fucking corner of my mind.
No shit.
You know,
It's working.
living rent free with John Sykes up in here, man.
That's right. That's right. All right, Chris Allo, what's your final?
Okay. All right, real quick. I was at that, we like to tease Butch about fucking John Sykes, but I was at that Blue Murder gig in '89 and it was great. And,
Good gig, yeah.
Sykes was on top of the world. What happened since then? I don't know. That's a whole nother fucking story. But anyway, the great thing with the weird thing about the Chance is it's one of those places, and God bless Frank and, like I said, everybody else for keeping it going, because you could never, at least for me, you could never tell like what show is gonna really fucking draw and what show is gonna be just fall flat.
Yeah.
Like I remember getting in some publicist got a hold of me and they were like, we're going to do this. And Chris had mentioned this earlier. It was this awesome benefit show they were doing at the Chance. And it was Classic Rock Cares, July 21st, 2007. And it was a special show because my buddy Steve was getting married. So it was like me and like eight buddies. We all we did it was the bachelor party was going to the Chance. So we went to somebody's house, got all boozed up. All the wives dropped us off. I mean, I interviewed Jolyn Turner before the show to try and publicize the show in More Sugar. Talked about it for months, and we went. The publicist was like, "Well, I'll give you the photo pass, but you can only shoot the first 3 songs. And I'm like, but wait, that's only Joe Lynn Turner, but whatever. Then they're like, well, thanks so much for getting all this publicity, but we can't give you a free ticket. I was like, fuck it. I don't care. I'll buy a ticket. Show was awesome, but it sucked for the charity, but it was awesome because nobody was there. Like it was me and my buddies and I don't know, maybe 100 people. The show started out with Joe Lynn Turner doing a Rainbow Deep Purple set. And it was just one band. So it's not like it was a fucking festival where you had to wait an hour in between lineup changes. It was just one goddamn band. So Joe Lynn Turner did Rainbow and Purple. Then if I remember right, because as the night got on, it got blurrier and blurrier. Mark Farner came out and did a Grand Funk Railroad set. Jesse James Dupree came out.
Was there.
Yeah, Jesse James came out and did, from what I remember, a Jackal set. And then they brought out Cliff Williams and Brian Johnson in the fucking Chance. And they did an AC/DC set.
Yeah.
And then they brought everybody out for the encore. And they did like Back in Black and Highway to Hell. And
I played Highway to Hell with Brian Johnson. That was, of course, I didn't play one of Brian Johnson's songs. I got to be in a cover band with Brian.
And the Chance was empty.
Yeah. It was. I was at the door. I was at the door.
I was like, this is unbelievable. If this was anywhere else, I could see the, tickets weren't cheap. But
I think you know what, they were doing those shows, and that one got put on, and there wasn't a lot of press at the one I saw in Atlantic City. The press was terrible.
Listen, I did what I could, but
Yeah, no, the overall press of the tour, like nobody really did it on a big level. It came out really small in the end. So it was one of these things where, I didn't even know about it until I think the night before I went to see it in Atlantic City. And then that's how I found out to go to the other one, because I played on one of Joe Lynn's records, and he was like, well, why don't you come up to the Poughkeepsie one? And Brian Johnson I went to a hotel party with him in Atlantic City, and for 2 hours he told jokes. The guy was a living one-liner. So it was just like, he was one of the funniest people I ever met in my life. He was hysterical.
That's awesome. So yeah, it was great to see half of AC/DC and all these other guys with nobody at the Chance.
That's a shame.
You want to go to the bar and buy 8 beers? Sure, no problem.
Yeah.
It was great. Sucked for the charity, but I had a great time.
Wow. Mr. Scow, your final pick of the day.
It's funny you mentioned that, because I found out about that show a fucking year after it happened.
No shit.
Brian Johnson played at the Chance. I'm like, whoa, what? And like, it was like a year ago. I'm like, fuck. Yeah, I didn't hear about it for forever. Yeah, it was.
I don't think
nobody I knew
until tonight.
Yeah,
I
never
just
did
found out.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a hell of a show.
A year later or tonight, you missed the bus. So I gotta piggyback on Sydney's story real quick. Little funny aside. She's talking about her grandma driving her to the show. This isn't a Chance, but it's a funny story I just thought up. When I was like 15 or 16, I went to see this Norwegian band called Satyricon, Norwegian black metal band, but I didn't have my driver's license yet. So I took my sister, who was like 14. I don't know. This was in Obsessions in Randolph, New Jersey, which is a shitty club. It was Christian, the death metal band Angel Corpse, and Satyricon, when they were full corpse paint, fucking like satanic black metal. So I had to have my mom drive us, right? And this place, it was like some clubs in the city. The show didn't go on to like 9, and Satyricon didn't go on to like 1. So I didn't tell my mom. They're like, "Can you drive me to a concert in New Jersey?" She's like, "Yeah, sure." So I don't know, like 1:30, like Satyricon, halfway through their set, she comes up to the door and she's like trying to find me in this fucking like, I was young as shit. Like I think it was one of the first black metal shows I ever saw. She's like, "We gotta fucking go." It was like a Wednesday night. She's like, "I gotta be at work in 5 hours. Get the fuck out." So first time I saw them, but I got dragged out. But I was thinking of some in the early 2000s. They had these concerts and tours where they just like threw random bands together that I think at any other time, it's like, throughout the 80s and 90s, there might have been a little thought in the like, oh, let's put these bands together that kind of go together. But in the 2000s, it was like the Wild West. They just poke random band from over here, random band from over here. So the first one that came to mind was April 25th, 2002. It must have been like 48,000 opening bands. And the 2 headliners were Morbid Angel and Motorhead, which was very, and I remember halfway through Motorhead's set, they stopped the show and they're like, "You guys got to stop moshing." But half the crowd was a death metal crowd there to see Morbid Angel. So that's what they're going to do, is they're going to fucking mosh. And both bands kicked ass. Morbid Angel were great. Motorhead were fucking great. That's the only time I saw Motorhead at the Chance. But yeah, I think like that kind of lineup, I don't remember seeing it any other time. And I know Nick can't be with us tonight, but speaking of that, I have to go with my favorite, January 7th, 2005. Another one of these wild fucking lineups. My favorite German band, Sodom and Fintroll, who I didn't give a fuck about, still don't give a fuck about. If you like them, that's great. I know you were there. And I feel like a lot of the crowd was there for Fintroll, you know, because they're very big within the folk metal scene. But I just wanted to see fucking, like Destruction, one of the other big German thrash bands, they've toured the US a lot. Creator have toured the US a lot. But my favorite of the bunch was always Sodom. Never toured the fucking US. Like if they toured back in the day, I don't know. I don't know anybody I know that really saw them too much.
They did not.
So this was like one of their only tours. Was 2005. The only tour since I've been into metal. They played in BB King's the following day in Manhattan, which I didn't go to because I'm an asshole. But I saw them with the Chance, and they kicked ass. And that was the night I met Nick Franco. And I remember it because I walked outside, and he decided like I'm going to drink 48,000 beers before they go on. And he missed the set because he ended up, you know, when you get like, you know, thermonuclear drunk, you fucking black out. So I go outside of the Chance, and he's upside down in the trash can singing Man of War songs to himself, you know. And I'm like, this guy's a fucking maniac. And when I finally kind of met him years later, and friends with him, I'm like, so what do you think of that Sodom show? It was Sodom and Fintroll. He's like, I don't remember anything. No, I remember Fintroll played first, right, Steve? Yeah.
Oh yeah,
So
Fintroll played first, and that's the reason that he was probably that drunk, because if you're into Fintroll or that style of like folk metal stuff, it's all about drinking.
It is. He also really wanted
drinking and moshing and jigging. I was dancing around a circle with Chris Allen at that Fintroll show.
I may or may not have danced a jig that night. I will not confirm or deny.
You did dance a jig with me.
Nice.
I remember you were there. But that's all I can attest.
Fintroll's like this music. It's like metal polka.
It is.
Who doesn't like a
Anyway,
good polka?
Upside out in the trash can outside. Didn't see any of Sodom's set. And then he's like, oh man, I wanted to see Sodom so bad. Who the fuck knows they wouldn't come back again since. So all hungover, he dragged himself down to see him in BB King's. But I thought Sodom were fucking great. Like they've always been
They were
my
great.
favorite German metal band. And that's the only time I've ever seen him. So just because of that, that's going to be
a
number one.
memorable show for me. My wife Linda went to that show too. She got bit by a dog, and we almost weren't able to go. And I was like, I remember going to my friends.
the
It was around
Chance?
the holidays still, right?
Yeah.
Well, January. And we went to this holiday party thing, and then on the way out, this dog bit her in the hand. I'm like, you got to be kidding me! Like, we got to get to the Chance. We got to get to the Chance. Fintroll's playing. I want to see this band. And my wife got bit by a dog that day, and she was fine. We made the show.
He's like, yeah, your hand is fine. Just wrap it.
Yeah, just wrap it up a little, you know, wrap it in
like
gauze.
Scow's head after he got beat up on the exit.
Blood pouring from her hand.
Yeah.
She was okay.
Yeah, I remember both you and Linda at that show. So, I mean, everybody seemed to be there.
We made it.
Yeah, that was a packed night. But yeah, Sodom were fucking great. So that's the only time I've seen them. So that's my number one pick.
Cool.
Nice.
I was actually at that BB King show the next night, and I made the mistake of hanging out with Fintroll in their dressing room at BB King's, and I got completely loaded that after during Sodom set, I had to leave. I mean, I literally was like, if I don't get here, I'm going to die. And I left.
I'm going to die if I don't go home now.
Pete, you had a Nick Franco moment almost.
I did, yeah. It was my birthday because it was like January. I think that show was January 6th. My birthday was the day before, or something like that.
So many great shows at BB King's too back in those days, wasn't there?
Yeah. So my final pick today. I mean, there's so many to choose from, right? I mean, you know, Macaulay Schenker in '87, Gary Moore '87, Man of War in '88. Christ,
loudest show ever.
Oh my God, yeah, my ears are still not the same.
Ears are still ringing, right?
Glenn Hughes a couple of years ago, Schenker in 2014 when he came, I think it was Temple of Rock, and he played like
all the Scorpions.
And the great place was packed. But the show that I think that I wanted to talk about, Trower 1991, Robin Trower 1991 was amazing. But the one show that I think just was absolutely incredible, might have been the most impressive show I've ever seen there, was October 4th, 1992, the reunion of the Dixie Dregs.
Hello.
And I had never seen them before. I had seen Steve Morse and
Rod Morgenstein,
but I had never seen the Dregs because obviously they were retired for a number of years. They got back together with most of the original members, except I believe on violin, it was Jerry Goodman from the Mahavishnu Orchestra. If I remember correctly, it was a long time ago, but I remember like that. It's a place was packed, and I remember just sitting there in absolute awe. You know, one of those shows where your jaw just very slowly just kind of sinks down towards the floor and sits there and sways back and forth, and there's no way to kind of bring it back up. That was that show. I mean, just these guys were like, they hadn't played together in
Oh,
like
yes.
15 years and or whatever it was, or at least a decade. And it was if they never stopped playing together. I mean, Steve Morse and Rod Morgenstein and T. Lavitz, and it was just absolutely unbelievable. I think Dave LaRue was on bass because Andy West had retired. He didn't come back, and Jerry Goodman on violin. And it was absolutely unbelievable. And then they did that same, they reunited again a couple years later, and they opened up for Dream Theater on the Scenes from a Memory tour. Mind-boggling as well. But so that's it. You know, that's my kind of
That was
fun.
a great show. That was a great show.
That was awesome.
On this
Love
marathon show here of all sorts of great memories. And I think a show like this, where you're talking about such fond memories of a great venue, seeing all these great bands, needed 2 hours.
Oh no, my dog hears yours.
Sorry, it's my
Major's
dog.
up.
It's over 2 hours. She's like, all right, I have to
Actually,
pee. Let's
I gotta
go.
go. Major's like, all right, I want to get in on the fun, right?
Actually, Major
we talked about the
knows
chance-
when the show's gone 2 hours. Major does this on Wednesday nights too with us.
Yeah.
Major
Yeah, no,
knows
my
when
dog's
time
like,
to
he's
sleep.
actually been really good tonight. He heard whoever's dog just barked, and
My dog.
all right,
Sorry.
he's very observing that. We didn't mention Bob Moore. Speaking of dogs, we didn't mention Bob Moore. I'm not
We
comparing
love
him
Bob
to
Moore.
He's like cuddly like a puppy dog, Bob. He was TSO's production
Cuddly.
manager with
Yes,
us.
he was. That's
So-
how I got to see you guys so much.
And we're mentioning the chance, and we don't mention Bob, who's always there. So
Yeah.
Hi, Bob.
Bob.
The
When he
lighting
sees
director.
this,
Hi,
he'd be
Bob.
like, if I didn't mention him, the next time I go there, he would be like, you didn't mention me when you.
Exactly.
I have one
Now
more.
I did.
One more epic show, I'd say, a few years ago when Ghosts played there. It was a pretty memorable evening too.
Ryan, were you there?
Drank a lot at that
That might have been
Ghost
my
show.
evil twin. That was
You
my
know,
evil
I
twin.
think the most hammered I ever played there was when I played with Spread Eagle, because me and Ray West and John Macaluso were staying in a van with Ray Freeman was tour managing
Oh,
that.
boy.
Down
Oh,
by the
boy.
river?
And it was just we had to stay drunk for 10 days to make it through it alive. So we used to have people would come out on stage with the waitress tray of Jack Daniels, and that's how me and Macaluso got through that tour with Ray West and Mike McCorkle. That was our
Oh,
crew. Was
Yeah.
Ray Freeman and Mike McCorkle were the crew. So,
All you had to say was Ray Freeman. I knew you were drunk.
oh yeah. So.
You could have a show just on
In a
those.
van, I'm not even
No.
talking like we traveled in a van and stayed in it sometimes. It was that, yeah.
Ew.
Oh yeah,
Crazy.
good, clean fun. But
Good time.
Sounds clean.
Yeah.
Hey, Pete, you got to put up a link for the Chance merchandise.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I will. Sounds good.
Everyone should own a Chance hat, t-shirt, something.
That is correct.
Pipe down, Sally.
You can't get the jacket anymore, sorry, but you can get the hat or the t-shirt.
Pipe down, Sally.
Make jackets.
Okay, Mert.
Anyway, I want to thank everybody for watching and sticking with us here on this epic love fest for the Chance. It's a special place. If you ever get a chance to make it to the Hudson Valley, New York,
Chance to
definitely
make
see
it
the
to-
show there. Once COVID is done and we can go back to living some kind of normal lives again.
Yeah.
So I want to thank Mr. Chris Caffery for coming on and joining us tonight.
fun to be here. So I hope I didn't interrupt
Bravo.
too much tonight. I was trying to behave as good as I could.
There you go.
Yeah, you're good.
I'll be left topic like 17 times tonight, not 50. So,
You did all right,
That
my
was
friend.
Good to see you,
So,
buddy.
make sure everybody visits us on the web at www.seatranquility.org. We're on Facebook. We're on Twitter. Of course, we're here on YouTube.
All the
damn
damn
time.
time.
All right. Also, make sure you
Woo.
check out Steve Keeler on the Rock Fantasy Fest. Make sure you check out Sydney's podcast as well, and all sorts of other stuff. So stay tuned for more here on the channel. We'll see you guys next Monday night. For Lynn, for Chris, for Steve, Sydney, Butch, Chris, and Ryan, and for Nick. I know you're watching, my friend. I am Pete Pardo. Good night, everybody.